This is John Harrelson. I was the team leader that initially team that put in Mifukte back in February of 1967. I could probably talk for all 3 hours about what we did and how we did it. If you like, I'll just give you a real brief summary, and I can answer any question you want that happened from February 67 until June, and so can Benny and so can Mark. I was approached in January of 67 by the C team to decide if I wanted to leave the camp on Phu Quoc Island and come up to the C team or put in what they call a fighting camp. I said I would go under one condition, that I could pick half the team to go with me, and 4 of the CIDG companies consisting of Wahao that we had been training out on Phu Quoc Island. So we moved up to the B team, Makwa, in February of 67. Initially flew down to Mifukte. There was a ranger unit that was in place. It wasn't much of a camp, no berm, etc. Went in, got a briefing. Their situation map was all red. I said, "What's that?" They said, "Well, that's all enemy." I said, "Hell, it looks like they're sitting outside your tent." He said, "Well, that's pretty much it." So while I was in talking, a couple of the NCOs were in the helicopter flying around the camp doing a recon. Guess what? Helicopter gets shot down. And the helicopter belonged to the colonel from Ito. He wasn't too happy that we got his chopper shot down doing an initial visit to Mifukte. We started moving in after that. Our CIDG companies came. We eventually got 2 Chinese Nung recon types that Benny had. And
you can't see.
I'm going to stop right there. Otherwise, I'll run for the next 20 minutes. Are you back, Steve?
I know.
Okay, well, I'll keep talking. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay.
He's got a good war story going here. I can't hear him.
Okay, so we started putting the camp in February of 67. There was already 2 155 howitzers in the camp, which was
he was just put inside a fighting camp.
Except we lost our hearing.
And he was all around him, got down the colonel's helicopter.
And I guess we had been building the camp, putting up some of the hooches and et cetera. For a couple of weeks, I get a call from the C team, from the S3. He said, "Hey, Harrelson, we put you in there to get some action. You haven't gotten out and got any action yet." I thought, well, hell, we've only been here 2 weeks. We're trying to put the buildings up. So we sent 1 company out, Phil Lugo and the radio operator, out the nearest wood line. You could get any action you wanted. I mean, less than a kilometer. They went out there and they happened to capture a rear service battalion commander, VC, who led them to all the supplies for the battalion that he had. So we haul all the guns and ammunition and claymores, et cetera, back to the camp, send a radio message out saying what we had done. Next thing we knew, Colonel Kelly, all the big wheels descend upon our camp at Mifukte. And from then on, we were off and running. I'm going to stop now. I could go on and on and on, but that's how we started it initially. And maybe Mark or Benny or one of you other guys want to jump in, but I can take you right up through June when I left. Okay.
Let me jump in here first here, because what we missed was that first part of the history. The original camp that came in here was established to take over a team at An Phu. And of the people here that I see, right now, the only person I see from that time is Art Bear. The original team that was there
Steve,
Yeah.
At Mi Phuc Tay, when we arrived, there was no SF team. There was a Ranger battalion.
No, this is back before, way before then.
Oh, okay.
All right. I'm sharing the screen. Okay, this is the TDY, the PCS team that came in. I have to go again here. Art, can you take over a little bit here? Art there?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Do you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, there I am. Yeah. I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure that's.
Okay, Art, we can hear you. So go ahead.
What do you need from me, Stephen? I'm sorry.
The first team that I deal with is actually 424, and
Yeah.
that was your team that was at Anfu. What happened was when they closed Anfu, there was the assets that were used went back to Kanto and then went off to Phu Quoc with John Harrelson. Then they took John's team back into Mi Phuc Tay to open up Mi Phuc Tay. But there is a thread that goes from Anfu to Mi Phuc Tay. And I need you to talk about me at Anfu because that's where you were at.
Yeah. Okay, I see two people here that I remember well. Captain Dye, he was, I replaced him. And then Staff Sergeant Little, Lloyd Little, became a tremendous guy. He, during my military career, and then afterwards in my professional career, my business career,
That's me then.
I would see him or talk with him.
Okay.
He got his PhD. He taught at the University of North Carolina. And then he was worked in the big leadership center, management center in the Raleigh area. I forget the name of the place. As I say, I'm getting old. I forget some of these things. But anyways, last time I spoke with him was maybe about 6 or 8 months before he died, and he died in 2020. But one of those guys that went on to really do well in the world and carry forth with his military experience, his leadership and management ability, teaching, and then working in the area, working with civilian industries, working with them. He also wrote a book. And I think I have it over here. And sometime when I take a break here, I will go get it and show you the thing. It was a funny book. It was a funny book. I'll put it that way. Okay, not based on an awful lot of things that were happening, but things that were, making fun, having a good time. But anyways, that's about it. I was there from in 64, 60. I was there 65, and who was there was a guy, I can't think of his name right now, but he was very anti-war. And he came into my camp, flew in by helicopter, got off, and gave me some crap about what do you this is not right, blah, blah, blah. So anyways, he spent the day, and that night we went up to the border and with Cambodia, and we're laying some ambushes. And he wanted to go along.
Can I interrupt for a second?
No, I don't need a weapon. So when we got there, we were lying down in the weeds, waiting for anything coming through. He tapped me on the shoulder. He said, "Do you have a gun?" I said, "Yeah." I pulled out my .45, gave it to him. He spent the rest of the night with that pistol right in front of him, shaking, moving around. But anyway, so he stayed for a day or two, then he left. When I returned home, I went back to my hometown of York, Pennsylvania, where my wife went and was there with our young son. She was with her parents and my parents. Well, when I got there, the newspaper writer who followed me during my high school football and college football days, he wanted to see me. So I saw Harry McLaughlin, and he took me over to see the president of York College. He wanted to talk, he wanted to take somebody who knew about Vietnam in to see the president. And he did, he took me in. And we started talking, and he said, you know, just the other week, he said, we had so-and-so, the guy that I was talking about with the pistol. He came back, he was with us before, he came over to speak to our students about a year or so ago. And he was very anti-war. And he said, but he was just back here recently, and he had totally turned. He was now supportive of the war in Vietnam. And I said, well, let me give you a little story, maybe why that happened, because we were doing this thing together, you know? And so he did, he turned the corner and became supportive of Vietnam. Another guy that came for a visit, he was, I guess, maybe with the CIA, maybe not. He really didn't say. But we spent about 2 weeks, in which time we had, shouldn't say it, but crossed into Cambodia, and because he wanted to see these things. And we had a good relationship, and we've maintained it over the years. And here's the book that he wrote based upon his time in Vietnam and other places. But it was very good because there's a beautiful picture in here of, can I find it? Well, yeah, here's, there's a picture of him. Here we go. There's a picture of us. I'm on the left side. He's in the middle, and my team sergeant is on the left. So no, I'm sorry, not but yeah, my team sergeant's on the left. But that's him, and that's in this book here. And he talks about his time with us and what he was doing. But anyways, and then there's one other thing that I bring back and I do once in a while. There was a woman reporter. I can't think of her name right now. But anyways, she was just she came in, the first thing she said, I gotta piss, where can I do that? So, okay, he showed her. Anyways, she went on to be very popular in the States here, writing things, but anyway, she was killed. But she's memorialized in the museum, in the museum in DC, the Correspondence Museum, and her name and picture are up on the wall. And whenever I go by that way, I stop in, say hi, give her a salute, because she was a great supporter of what we were doing. So there are a lot of memories go back. What the devil was there were two guys, the head of Vietnam, the chief guy. There were two of them. I forget their names right now. Okay, again, brain fart. But one of them lived about less than a mile from me here in Virginia. After the war, he came over here, and he lived about a mile away from us here in Fairfax, Virginia. My wife and his wife became sort of associated with each other. My wife was a nurse, and this lady, his wife, needed some medical stuff, so she would see the doctor where my wife was working. I didn't mean to take up so much time. I'm just going to sit here and listen to everybody else, but you got me excited, guys. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Well,
Can I interrupt for a second?
The book that you were talking about was Parthian Shot by Lloyd Little. It is a funny.
There you
book.
go. Yes, I got that. That looks like a newer version. I think I got
That's
the
the
older
hardcover version. You got the paperback.
Yeah, I got the paperback. Yeah.
This is the funniest book about Vietnam that's ever been written. If the Vietnam War was more
Yeah.
popular, this would be the MASH program that was on.
Yeah.
You really
That was Lloyd Little. Yep.
Art-
who is TNS?
Say again.
Who is TNS? What's your name?
Harry Durso.
Say again.
Hi, Terry.
How we doing?
Say again.
Durso, D-U-R-S-O, Sergeant.
Good. Gotcha. Okay. The other person you mentioned is Frank Scott. And I have been working with him for the last decade, producing a 14-volume set of books on the Vietnam War. And he wrote Uphill Battle. When he came back, in Vietnam, he had one of the most famous movie stars that he had gotten into a relationship with. And he thought he was going to get killed, and he didn't want her to have been affected by it. So he broke up with her. She was very pissed off at him. In the last decade, his wife was gone. Her husband was gone. She was here in the States. They remarried, or they got married finally after being apart for 50 years. And they're back in Virginia right now.
We're in Virginia.
I'd have to look that up. I'll call you about it afterward. Remind me, because it's probably not far from where you are. And she just finished writing a book that came out about her life, and he had the Uphill Battle book, and he was very, very knowledgeable and helpful in the series that we did on the Vietnam War. All right, Bob? I see Bob. Who's the Bob on the iPhone?
Bob on the iPhone is Bob Rucker.
Okay.
Was at Mi Phuc for a couple of months in '69.
Okay.
January, February, and part of March.
There's nobody else here at this time who was there at An Phu rather. Is that correct? Other than Art?
An Phu, yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Anybody else at An Phu?
Hey, Steve,
Yes.
is there a passcode to get on this thing? JD Roberts is trying to get on.
You just click on the link that I gave you, the long link. Click on it. That is the password.
Need to tell him to cut and paste and put it on his browser.
That'll do. That'll work. Cut it and paste it, but that passcode is on the link. All you guys made it here.
Barely.
Okay. So my notes say that An Phu was turned over to Rough Puff in about August of '66. The U.S. assets seem to have been held at Canton and then participated in an operation on Phu Quoc. And then the camp in February of '67, as John said, reopened first as A424 again. And then when Chau Dup was closed, it became A4411 and reported to Muc Wa. So that's how we moved from 424 to 411. But they're basically the same assets that brought this together. All right. Yes.
I was John's senior demo guy, and I just like to run through the people that we were with. He already mentioned, I think Phil Lugo was the XO. Bill Kreisel was the team sergeant. Bill had been with the 82nd, in World War II. And the senior intel guy his name was Vincent Centevanti Dieck, and he fought for the Germans against the Russians. And after the war was over, I guess it's the Lodge Act, whatever it was, Dieck came to this country and became a soldier. And after Kreisel got a punji stake wound, Dieck took over as team sergeant, and he was a really good guy. And then the guy who was here with us was the other 11F, and that was Benny McDonald. And then we had the two radio operators, Tom Wallace and Frank Kennemore. And then we had the two weapons guys. The heavy weapons guy was Kerry Ward, but his family calls him Carl. And his brother is writing about our camp, and he may sign in today, I don't know. And the other weapons guy was a guy named Fred Kirchen. Fred was from Utah, and he had been an orphan, raised in an orphanage, and he died about middle of the 90s, maybe 96 or 7. And then the two medics, the senior medic was a guy named Woodrow Richardson, and he lives today in Schertz, Texas, Schertz, I think is how it's spelled. And he was the senior 91B, and Terry Durso was the other 91B. And then the two 12Bs, the junior one was a guy named Pat Sullivan, and he was an Irish guy who had been born in Iceland. And Pat was a bright guy. Rumor has it that Pat Sullivan's IQ was about 170. And Pat was murdered in Brooklyn after the war. And I mentioned Kerry Ward. Kerry was killed in a car accident in Germany when he was with the 10th. I don't know if I'm forgetting anybody. Daiwi, am I forgetting anyone?
No, you got it, Mark.
Well, your memory is very good. I envy you.
I took some memory pills. I have two, that's my big challenge. I was at the VA this week, and I just, number one on my list is memory. And you just have to live with it.
Mark, can I jump back in, just back up a little bit before me Fukte? When the team that the gentleman before you was describing going to Mi Fukte, or not, excuse me, to Fuquoc Island. Fuquoc Island was designated to be a training center, at least our part of it. There was an A team that was also at Yongdong, but we were along the airstrip. I went there in, I guess, the late summer of '66, when I was up at the headquarters and Black Jack Kelly was handing out the assignments. He said, Harrelson, why don't you go down to Fuquoc Island and get that damn camp built? He said, we got a team leader down there that thinks there's nothing but a bunch of pissed off farmers down there. And would you please go down there and get this camp going? I think we started getting our initial CIDG probably September, October. They were all Wahao out of Chau Duc province. And we started them off individual up through squad, platoon to company training. They lived in tents. We had a berm. And so we were essentially conducting individual and unit training of these people right up through, I guess, February, when they shifted some of us were getting ready to leave. Team sergeant was a fellow by the name of Robinson, real good team sergeant. Also, this is an interesting little sidelight. I didn't have an XO initially. I got somebody by the name of Jim Krause. They came in, I think he had been at Kai Kai, and they decided to get him out of there before he got killed. He came out, spent 2 or 3 months with us, and then rotated. He was a second lieutenant. Jim Krause ended up being a colonel, commanded the 5th Special Forces, during the first Gulf War, Jim Krause. Anyhow, as I said earlier, we were conducting the training. They decided to open some fighting camps, particularly along the Plain of Reeds, and took some of the team, and they let us select which 4 CIDG companies we wanted because we had been training them. We knew them pretty well, and went to the B team at Mukwa, February, and then went down and did a reconnaissance at Mifukte. There was a Ranger battalion there. Lots of action all over, including the helicopter we flew down in, got shot down. And then we started moving into Mifukte, latter part of February. Team came together. We got a company at the time of our CIDG. So we were building at the same time we were running operations. The first operation we ran, Phil Lugo and, name escapes me, radio operator, ended up capturing a rear service battalion commander who took them to where all the supplies were held. So within about 3 weeks of arriving at Mifukte, we had a significant success. And next thing you know, Colonel Kelly and B team commander and everybody else came down to get a flag. We must have had 20 different communist flags we were handing out. And I'll stop right there, and rather than just keep talking and let somebody else jump in.
Bill, you were there about a year later. You came in as a capo officer.
Yes,
Talk about it.
okay. Well, it was kind of, they hadn't had a capo officer before me, but they had been accumulating capo funds. So I had a ton of money to play with when I got there. And after you did all the hearts and minds stuff you could, I still had money left over. So we bought 4 sewing machines and a bunch of red, blue, and gold material. And we had our CIDG's wives making Viet Cong flags.
I love it.
And this wasn't an original idea. I read Battle Cry when I was in high school, and they talked about counterfeiting Japanese flags. But we would take those, and we could
Heard
trade them
about
to
you
the
guys.
Navy for rations. We could get a case of steaks for 1 flag. And we used to, when we'd have wounded, we'd get them bloodied up in the dispensary, or we'd drag them through the mud and hang them on the concertina wire to dry. The more messed up they were, the more they
Mold in 'em.
were. One time we get a colonel from the 9th Infantry come by, and he said, "We understand you have a plethora of Viet Cong flags." We said, "Yeah, we do, but surely you're an infantry brigade commander. You get all the souvenirs you could get your hands on." He says, "I know, but I have trouble getting office supplies, and I know a guy in the Air Force that I could trade flags to and get the office supplies I need. So what do you guys need?"
Cool.
But when I was there, we still had the 155s.
Okay.
The initial commander was a guy named Wagner, and he was later replaced by Bill Brooks. Our team sergeant the whole time I was there was Peter Ostalos. He had been he'd been with the Romanian army at Stalingrad in World War II. And he was just a walking cartoon. He was an amazing guy. He, we
What
were
was his name?
Peter
His name?
Ostalos. Peter Ostalos.
Astalos. Astalos. Astalos.
But he was, we were getting our ass handed to us one day, and he's standing up looking, and the radio operator tells him to get down, you're going to get shot. And he says, "Well, you can't see the motherfuckers, you can't shoot them."
You remember the name of that movie actor? I took it
And
wrong.
He was,
When the radio operator got wounded by shrapnel, Top was looking over, standing over him, looking, saying, "That's a pretty mother. I wish I had one just like it." Then another mortar round went off and he had one just like it. And when we were a blocking force for the 9th Infantry, and when they met up with us, Astalis' head wound had just bled exponentially more serious than what, I mean, all the wounds were John Wayne wounds that day. We had 5 of my 8 Americans and about 60 of our Vietnamese were wounded, but they were all John Wayne wounds, you know, a Band-Aid and a Purple Heart and you're good to go. But this lieutenant and medic from the 9th Infantry are fluttering around Top, wondering, what can we do for you? Are you okay? Can we do anything for you? And he pulled out his cigarettes and says, "Well, you can give me a light if you like. My fucking masters are wet." I got there about 2 weeks after the team commander and 2 E7s, and about 80 Vietnamese were killed.
What happened?
East of the camp, about halfway to the camp to the east.
Who was a commander then?
A guy named Roberts.
Towards the double Y to the west.
Pardon?
We called it the double Y the year before you were there.
Yeah. And then a week after that happened, his replacement and the only American that had survived the first one and another 80 Vietnamese were killed in almost the exact same place. And 2 of the E7s, Biggs and Parrish, were captured. Later, I had a small group down busting curfew violators south of the camp at that first major canal junction to the south. And we ended up capturing a political officer who had a rucksack full of stuff she shouldn't have had with her. And she had a diary, and she'd been present when Biggs and Parrish were captured. And she'd written that they shot Parrish right away because he was wounded pretty badly, and they held Biggs for several months before they executed him in retribution for something Saigon did that they didn't like.
okay,
Yeah, I think you're wrong about Roberts. I think it was O'Toole and Young were the 2 captains.
oh,
O'Toole was
there's a
the
guy.
second captain that was killed.
And Young was the other one. O'Toole first and then Young.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
The other guy's a replacement.
I will bow to your diligent research against my befuddled mind.
Mark, say something.
Come on. The first person killed was George O'Toole, and he was killed on December 12th, 67. And then the next day, on the 13th, 3 of them were killed: Clifford Carter, John Fitzgerald, and Luis Marquez Lopez. And then on the 16th of January, there were 4 more killed: Herbert Anderson, Earl Biggs, Frank Parrish, and John Young. And those, my DROS was 27 January or 26 January. I mean, I didn't make it that far, but 8 guys in 34 days. That's bad odds.
That was one of the worst losses for SF in a short period of time. There were a couple of them that were a bit greater than that. That was kind of a surprise. What was going on at that time that made that happen?
Cat.
It was a cat buildup.
Oh yeah, the bad guys were heading towards Saigon and Canto and places like that.
This was this sort of the lead into the Tet Offensive.
Pardon?
This was the lead into the Tet Offensive. The action moving into Tet, because all those people were before Tet, which really broke out on 31st of January.
Yes, and so some of these were 2 weeks before Tet.
So this is their movement toured the cities,
Yes.
and they were in. Why was there contact? Because usually, if they're on another kind of operation, they would avoid bumping into the camp. They would bypass Lock In, for example.
The three guys who were killed in December on the Carter, Fitzgerald, and Marquez, they went back to get O'Toole's body. And Woody Richardson told me that. And then there were, I don't know the details of the January 16th, as well as the 12th.
Bill, were you about to say something on that?
No, I'm just
I was with O'Toole when he
my
died.
memory lapse on the dates.
Hold on, Phil.
I was with O'Toole when he died.
Okay.
And Anderson was out there with us too, but he died later on the 16th.
Mm-hmm.
Was this a normal operation that you were conducting, or was there something special about it?
It was 4 of us volunteered. It was we weren't supposed to return. We were going to try to locate Charlie and the NVA. And when we did locate him, O'Toole, we nicknamed him Pete because he hated that part about Peter O'Toole in the movie. So in camp, we just call him Pete. But Andy was there. He was pinned down. Robbie Robinson, he rotated back right after then. And then 4 other guys came in from the river on the left, and they were annihilated right away. And I got medevaced out.
Are you Peter Morley?
Peter O'Toole, yes. He was our CO.
No, that's Phil Allen.
Phil Allen, okay. I got you.
Yeah.
Is Marvin Meadows online?
No, he's not.
Okay.
He was contacted, but he's not here.
Yeah, well, he's the one who he and Woody Richardson are the two who kind of filled me in. And Joe Guyton, is he on?
Joe
No.
Guyton was on the team when I was there. He was the junior engineer.
Mhm.
Joe, when I was at B-41, Joe came up with me, and we were working with the airboats kind of as an additional duty. And on an operation I wasn't on, Guyton got wounded in the ankle, and he was evac to Okinawa. And I got a letter from him while he was in the hospital at Okinawa talking about the first pass he'd gotten. And he said, nothing in the world's got to be funnier than a drunk on crutches, unless you're the drunk.
Steve,
Yes.
at some point, can everybody just go around? I'd like to have their names so I can check them off on this. And
You should see their names underneath their pictures.
well, I don't see them, but I see Will Williams is the only name I got.
Bill,
Hello.
all right, look, Art Bair, B-A-I-R, and Jim Kubit were both there at the original 424.
Okay.
John Harrelson and yourself and Benny were there at the beginning of Bifukte.
Yes.
Bill Essex is sort of the next part of that generation. And Terry, I don't know where you come in here.
It was original.
And then at the end, I know Walt Fultz and Jim Thompson. And who else, Walt? Have you got your people closing up the camp?
J.D. Roberts was the commander.
People who were here. people who were here. Yeah,
Yep, J.D. Roberts.
J.D. Roberts was here a minute ago. Right.
Yep, and Dave Bykander.
David is here. Robert Hathaway
Yep.
is checking in right now. Robert, you're connected to audio. Bob Brucker probably replaced Bill Essex. Bob? Is that?
No, there was a few lieutenants there at the time. And that's why I wasn't let stick around too long, a couple of months. So I don't know exactly who I was replacing. I was like the second CAPO and then help with the finances of the payroll.
Well, you were at the end of 68. Bill was at the beginning of 68.
I was 69.
Well, you came in, I had you come in about December of 68.
Well, I came in the country December 68. I didn't get down to Mifukte till January something, first or second week of January 69.
Okay.
And
Thomas Patrick Flanagan replaced me.
Who did? Can you hear me? Can anybody hear me?
Robert Hathaway, I can hear you.
Yeah, I just got in. I've had trouble getting in it. I'm sorry I'm late, but I'm so sorry. But I'm listening to you guys. Go ahead.
Well, we're asking you where everybody was, so you better give us.
I was at 411 from July, late July, 1st of August of 68 until end of October, 1st of November of 68, and then I went to 415.
Okay, so you came in between Bill Essex and Bob Rucker as capo.
Chad Wright and Flanagan were there when I was at 411.
Well, there was a fair turnover on that slot.
yeah, I remember Flanagan and Wright. Yes. Yeah.
Wright died. I saw where Wright had died in the drop about a year ago, I think.
Mhm.
Right. But I never have kept. Shimmakonis was the radio operator, and Dole, and the medic. I can't think of the medic's name. Harrison was the weapons sergeant. Jim Campbell was the team sergeant, I think. Ted Campbell. Damn, it's been so long ago. And Hank
What's
White.
the time frame on that?
Campbell was intel.
Who?
I think Campbell was intel.
Yeah, I think so too. And then Bowman. Bowman was there.
Elmer Bowman. Yeah, he was there when I was
Bowman. Yeah. And
right.
and then I left and they put me over at 415 in November of 69, and I never got back to 411. It was a neat place. It was good guys there.
Right.
All right, before we go on here, let me get Jim in here because while Bill was the first capo officer there at Mifukte, you were the first capo officer at Anfu, I believe. Jim Kubik?
No, I was civil affairs. I worked for Hauser.
That's capo.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
What you call that?
Yeah, I was there. Yeah, I was a civil affairs officer. I got to go outside a lot. It was they ran a lot of patrols there. The guys did, but I was outside a lot. And the Wahoos, whoever had trained them up there, they trained good. And I felt pretty comfortable with them all the time. They were really protective, taking me around the villages and doing things. So they were doing more of the patrol stuff, and they were sending me up and down to the villages and do what you do as a capo, as you say. But I got to meet a lot of the people, could bring back information to the camp. I still remember a lot of things inside the camp there. I remember the Wahau major, one day one of the guys complained about his radio being stolen. And we're sitting there inside just eating breakfast that morning early. He comes on his side of the wire fence. He lines up his company. He calls out the guy who stole the radio from his group, and he took his walking stick or whatever he had, and he beat the crap out of him in front of everybody eating dinner. Okay, problem solved. Radio back. I was wondering too. I was trying to remember a guy that went with me on an operation up by the border. His name was Harry, and he went up there and he got himself an award that day. But I can only remember his name, Harry. And I wish that somebody there, maybe the captain, could remember his name. I know I was there, and Lieutenant Anderson was the XO. And I remember one of the medics named Chastain. I remember him. Stuff like that. If anybody remembers who Harry was that used to be there, I sure appreciate it, or who got the award that while we were there. We went up.
There was another medic.
I remember the name of the village. We went up to the village to check on it, and I went up with the Wahouse, and Harry went with me. The only thing I didn't like, some of them were flying those red neckerchiefs they had on them. They all looked like flags, but come and get me. But we went up there, we started going through the open and cautiously, and all of a sudden we got caught in a shitstorm, and I don't think, nobody thought they were going to get out. In fact, the guy laying down next to me on the ground, one of the Wahouse, he got the back of his ass shot off. I was just standing there until we started moving forward. Of course, by the time we got there, it was dead all over, and then they crossed over their boats back over to Cambodia. We couldn't go there. But Harry did a lot that day, and I just don't. There might have been a different name. If anybody remembers that, I'd sure like to say hello to him. Other funny stuff happened. I was sent on a mission to go take some papers down to, I think, Chau. And there was the agency had a house down there, and I think it's just a phony name of Tony or something like that. He was a guy running in the area, and he asked us down there a couple times, and I was carrying some paperwork to him, and he had a cook in there, an old cook, been there for a long time, and I got to know her, talked to her a couple times, and she was laughing. I told her about how good her food was. When she got to know me, she confided. She said, "Tony," she said, "Captain," she says, "Lieutenant, not everybody talk nice to me." She started talking about some brass that flew in that she never saw before, and they were complaining about what she'd been feeding them. So she said, "I feed them good. I feed them good." I said, "What'd you do?" She said, "Oh, they like a chicken. The chicken was so good." And she laughed. She said, "No chicken. No chicken, Jim." She says, "Rats." So, but even where we were up at in the A team up there down in the village here, they had a rat lady. They ate the right-sided rats. But I thought that was funny. She stiffed those guys that came in from Saigon. Fed them rats. They thought chicken, very good. Oh, so good. So a lot of strange things happen.
We would come in from an ambush sometimes in the morning, and several of the CIDG would have a string of rats, like you would have a string of trout when we would come back in.
Hey, food's good, but they were rice fed. But I just thought it was funny the way they talked crap to her, and she went and fed them rats. I don't know, the kind of work I was doing was just strange. They sent me in again at a time I didn't really ask for it or want it. They sent me into Saigon to escort some movie stars around. They had a whole bunch of people from SF and that. Carol O'Connor was one of them, and Raymond Burr was moving around in that time, and Martha Ray, and actually some of them went out to camps. You'd land in the camps no matter where they were. That's not what I signed up for, but that's what you do when you got the assignment in civil affairs. Another time they had me take some papers into, and I'm not sure where, guys. I just remember, I don't think, it might have been Saigon, and they had this fenced in area with this yellow clapboard sideboard house, was full of MPs in there. And I was supposed to pick up some papers and talk to somebody in there that they had. And I don't know how true it is, but the guys were saying they were shocked they brought other guys out. They said, don't you know he's not here? I said, what happened? They said, we picked up this guy who was AWOL from some unit, had been gone a long time. He got buried inside of Saigon with some of the gangs, collecting and stealing stuff, I guess, for black market. We picked him up, and they said yesterday or the day before, a Jeep came, and those people with some kind of orders and dressed in military clothes, and we released them to them, and they were gone, and they started looking for him, and they said, hey, those weren't military. Those were part of the organized small group of AWOLs that were down in Saigon working with some of the other people. I don't know if that's true. I don't know if any of you ever heard of that kind of stuff. That's the first kind of time I heard about it. So my time went fast. I really didn't want to go home, but I had to go back to Okinawa. I enjoyed my time there. I remember, like I said, I remember Anderson, Chastain. I think Lloyd might have been there with me at that time, 65, early 65. That's pretty much it. It was a lot of outside stuff, talking to people, spending the money. They tell me orders had come down, build more stuff. And I'm like, they don't need any stuff. Villages would ask some little schools or stuff. That was it, you know. And they started building more bridges, and they had some guy from go between, and somebody else come down and said, bridge should go here, go here. And it was like a river or something there. And I'm going, it's on the map. I can't get out that far. It's with the border. There's nobody going to take me there. So I give them the money and went through some pockets, I'm sure, and they built the bridge. And later on, I got a picture. It was a beautiful little built bridge over a dry piece of land. So there was funny stuff going out there with the money sometimes when it got stretched out too far. But I enjoyed my time there. Like I say, I learned a lot. I then remember the team sergeant. It might have been Jimmy, and I don't know if it was Jimmy O'Neill or what. But a strong guy, a lot of background, small man, a lot of background successes, and been in SF for a while. And again, one morning we're eating in the team place, and he's in there over at a table, got Garfin down, ready to go. And one of the patrols came in, and they threw something on his plate. And we're eating SOS. He looks at it, and looks like a piece of flesh. I'm not going to gamble for it what it was. All he did was curse and yell, take it out, throw it out of his plate. And the team sergeant just kept right on eating it. Show us, hey, nothing phases me. So, but that was my life. That's what I did. I miss it. I miss the guys that were there, and often wondered where they all went. If anybody else knows the medics' names, and they're online, my thanks to them. They did a lot. We also had African American guy, big guy. He was our commo guy. I forgot his name too. He did a lot. He was working by himself out there in that bunker a lot. And my hats are off too. You guys probably in your camp sometimes we'd get flights all the way from seemingly from the United States, from National Guard units and reserve units. And then you get surprise things. The guys that open up, there'd be some beer or there'd be some Coke or something mixed up in the food. That was some weird stuff I'd seen that was outside of Vietnam. The villages were great. The people were great in the village near us. The Wahao people, that Buddhist clan. I trust the ones I worked with. I trusted them a lot because I was out alone with them most of the time. And that's my story.
Terry?
So this is Hathaway. Another guy that was there was Campbell. Fortenberry was on that team that I was on, and Doane Johnson and Captain Henrich was the CO, and there was a medic named Turley and Shimmakonis. They were the two medics that were there. Dole was a radio operator.
Lieutenant Anderson was the XO when I was there. I don't know how long and what, and I thought Hauser was the captain for a while. He was just leaving. He was there for a couple of months. You
You were at the earlier team. You were on Phu. Bob Hathaway was on Mi Phuc Tay.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So there are different people here.
Yeah.
Let me share this. Here is a Pifukte map.
Okay.
And I don't know if there's anything here in particular that's worth pointing out. Like everything else in the Delta, there's a bunch of canals and very few roads.
Steve,
Yes. Okay, Mark's got a similar map. That's 1/50, right?
well, the original one is a little beat up. I had to go all over, and finally it was the guy who copies blueprints. He made these copies for me.
Well, you got here on the web, you've got this map that would print out as a tabloid size sheet, and it's a landscape. So it's about, I think it's the 1/50 that you got, and it should be around 1968 version. So if I make this much smaller, you can see the whole scope of what they've got. I can actually make it bigger than that.
Steve, can I orient a little bit on what you're looking at besides just the map?
Go ahead. Here's the camp.
Mifukte was initially a Catholic resettlement area for the Catholics that were coming from North Vietnam. That's where they settled. As part of the camp, there was still a priest that lived in the area. We used to bring him in to say mass and give communion for those of us that were Catholics, as well as the 2 platoons of Chinese Nung. If you go directly north, you keep going, you'll end up in Makwa. If you come south, you'll come down to the district capital of Kai Lei. If you go to the left from what you're looking at, it was a very interesting, maybe two kilometers, you had a statue of the Virgin Mary right along that main canal. And then as you continue to the left, once you get outside the range of the 155s, you could get all the action you wanted. If you came back in the
In
other,
the pocket.
yeah, that's it.
Yeah, the pocket.
Yeah.
If you came back to the right and you went back there, yeah, right there. It's called the double Y. You get all the action you wanted there as well. If you want to go back to the camp, that first canal, which is about 2 kilometers from the left, you could get shot at any day you wanted to run a patrol out in that area as well. Everything north of the main canal that runs east and west is known as the Plain of Reeds, and you can see all the outline there. One of the nice things about having 155s in the camp is if you were out there, they already had them pre-registered. If you ran into something, you could call back and get some supporting fire. A little aside, Steve, I went back to the Mifukte, I don't know, it's been 15, 20 years ago. During the second career, I was working for State Department, and I worked up in Hanoi, came down to Saigon, and I had a weekend off before I had to be back in Bangkok. So I rented a car and an interpreter and had him take me back to Mifukte. Once I got to Kai Lei and started up that main road towards the camp, boy, the old palpitations really started coming because, we had a fair amount of action along that road. When we got up to the camp, there wasn't anything there. All the berms, all the buildings had been bulldozed down. And what you had was a road grader, bulldozer, etc. And then right at the junction of the canal by the bridge, there was a little market. So I got out and wandered in. Everybody's eyes got real big because they hadn't seen an American for 20, 30 years. And I started talking to the people, and my interpreter was a pretty little gal wearing an owl dye. She caught up with me. So I started talking, and lo and behold, I meet 2 young women whose mothers had worked in the camp. And I chatted with them, and their mothers were still alive, and I gave her some money and told her that Daiwi Harrelson was in the area. And then after that, I said, I wonder if that priest is still alive that used to live on the other side of the canal. Went over there, found the area, they were building a new church. And the priest had died, but his assistant was still alive and he remembered me. And I said, can I make a donation towards the church that you're building here? This is the only time I realized that I was in a communist country. He looked at me and he said, maybe we should take that before the People's Committee. And I thought, oh, this might not be a good idea to have a special forces captain back in the area handing out money. I said, maybe we better not do that. But the whole area is much more of a population. All the hooches along the canals have TV antennas. They have 3 rice crops a year as opposed to 1. It was very worthwhile to go back to Mifukte. Okay.
Yeah, it's Bob Brucker. I took a trip over to Vietnam about 5 years ago, and we went up to. I talked to guys I was with to go down the Delta and visit some places. And went to Tan Tree, 414, the camp I was at for most of my stay over in Vietnam. And but coming back, we were heading towards Mito, and we passed through My Phuc Thé. I had been there, like I said before, a couple of months, and we stopped, and there was a big school, almost right where there used to be a small schoolhouse, right outside the gate of My Phuc Thé. And we stopped and looked around, walked around. This older woman came running up to me and like, oh, happy to see me, a long lost friend and stuff. Oh, hello, you come back. But I don't know who she was, and I wasn't understanding much of what she was saying. But the place was certainly built up. A lot of houses around there, and like I said, there's a much bigger school right there. And it's funny because up to right near where Tan Tree was, 414, there was a big school up there too. These big schools like with a gate around it and everything. Look like private schools some places in the States. So both those areas were so much changed. And that's only 5 years ago. I was there with some other guys, Vietnam vets. So My Phuc Thé was hearing you stories. I knew when I got there, this was quite a camp with quite a history, even though that was 69 and the real tremendous action was happening in 67, 68. But still, every time we went out, whether it was a mile or up to the pocket, we would hit some kind of action. Bowman and I were in an ambush. Actually, the first group, it was a helicopter ambush. Four helicopters would take half of our group in and then pick up the other 4. The first 4 went in, and I forget the Camo man, but he was trapped in there. And but the Vietnamese didn't want to go to walk across the field to go help them, because some of the helicopters were shot down. 2 helicopters were shot down, and the other people were stuck there, including 2 Americans. And Bowman would hear nothing of it. And this was like my first real action. So I was just following along with Sergeant Bowman. And he was going like, we got to go. You don't go. He was telling the Vietnamese, I forget if it was the captain or the lieutenant Vietnamese. He was telling them, I'm going without you. We're going. Meaning me and him. And we started walking across. And then, a bunch of the Vietnamese came with us. And the shots flying over our head. But we did link up. And it was just before dark. And we... they weren't like overrun. The people that were still there, still alive. And I can't remember the Camo man's name. Like I said, I only knew him for a short time, and it's so long ago. But he then went out in the dark to see if he could help find any people still alive. The Vietnamese, the siege and bring him back. And he did find a couple of wounded and brought them back in the dark. You know, shots still firing occasionally over our heads and stuff. But, you know, he was a gutsy move and stuff. I put him in for an award. I think I forget what I put him in for. Bronze Star or maybe even higher, but he was knocked down one award. I think he ended up with the Bronze Star. But he said, I'm putting you in for an award because you came across, you know, that they would have overrun me by nighttime if you didn't come across. I said, well, put Bowman in for the award. I was just hanging around with him. At one point, we're crawling across in the mud and they're firing over our head. And Bowman looks around and he says to me, this is some fun, huh, Bob? He knew it was like my first real action. And yeah, I was saying, yeah, great fun. I had no thought that I was going to survive that. I mean, I had many thoughts that this is it, but somehow we made it through the night. And then the airstrikes came in and, you know, it was quite a long night, but that's my little part of Mifukte. Besides little smaller actions, the ambush, you know, a couple of miles down the canal from the camp. But it was much more action in that area than up in Tantry, which was only a couple of miles, a mile and a half at one section. You know, 414 was real close to the border. But so many times they just were trying to get past the camp and didn't want to do much. They maybe fire some rockets and then keep moving down, you know, down to other places in the big populated areas of the Delta, you know, Mito and Kailai, all and on the way to Saigon sometimes.
Mark, are you trying to get a word in?
Steve,
Yes.
I have a recreational picture from Mifukte.
Recreation.
I don't know can you see it?
Vaguely.
It's Pat Sullivan and Mark Atchison drinking San Miguel, and there's Frank Kennemore in the background.
Now, Frank Kennemore should have died a long time ago, but I haven't got the word on that. And I can't get him on email. When I'm not looking for him, he always shows up.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I have one other thing that I need an answer. I don't have it anymore, but it was a round patch, white with a skull and crossbones in it. And at the top it had A-411, and across the bottom it had rape, pillage, and plunder. So you know why I don't have it anymore. Who's responsible for that? Which one of you guys are responsible for that?
Probably you.
No.
Yeah, probably. Probably Mark.
I'd like to,
Talking about Mark here, let me share this screen. This is a history that was done in 1971 by Fifth Group as they were closing down. And this paragraph here that you see was Carrie Ward
Yeah.
going in to rescue Mark in a minefield.
Yep. That's right.
So that's the history of Company D from 1971. All right. Jim Thompson,
yeah,
you
I
were
wanna-
the next to last team sergeant out there. Tell us about it.
would interject something about the canals and the intersecting canals there. Those canals had certain names that they would, they were referred to as. And on a number of occasions, I would get, VC, Viet Cong, and I interrogate these guys. And I would ask them, what is the name of this canal that you just travel on? And they'll give me a name, and the name didn't match the name that I had on record. And I find out that canal was named after a high-ranking Viet Cong sympathizer or somebody in that area that they had named that canal after. So once I got learned that, the first thing I would do, I would ask the guy, what's the name of that canal? They would give me that high-ranking Vietnamese, that Viet Cong. I said, okay, I know where this guy's coming from. He's Viet Cong, because everyone else is referring to this canal by a different name. I said, I'll be damned. That's something. Yeah, when you brought the subject about those canals, and Bob, I think the team leader was Captain Savageau, the team leader.
Yes.
Still there?
Yeah.
He's still there? Yeah, and Chad Wright was the XO.
Right.
And
You remember?
Sergeant Runyon
remember-
was the he was the team leader, team sergeant at the time. Runyon was his name, and he was there.
Right.
He probably left maybe in February, March, somewhere around there. But yeah, he wasn't there long after I got there in January, and he was there for a couple of months. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Fortenberry, you remember Fortenberry, the medic?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. He was a wild man.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was in
Barry's wife sent me a note today saying that his son and their grandchildren are visiting, and he was not going to be on today, but he has been located. He's been very reluctant to participate on anything, but he's had a very interesting life since leaving Special Forces. At one time, he was the pilot for Bon Jovi's rock and roll bunch.
Yeah.
Among other many different aspects of his post-service career.
Well, when he left me for
Fortenberry
pay,
in.
he went to CNC.
Yeah.
He went to CNC, but he's been reluctant to show up in Las Vegas. And I said, I'll forgive him for not coming to this. But on his recon team, the team leader died about 3 years ago. The other two people always show up in Las Vegas, and he's the only one who doesn't.
I was with Fortenberry on an operation up in the northern part of Mifutay's area of operation, and we got in a right good firefight, and I put him in for Bronze Star, and everybody got wounded but him and me and him. They downgraded it to an ARCOM with a V, and I didn't understand why, but I guess I didn't word it right. But he was a hell of a soldier, and it was one of his first operations that he went on after he got there after I did, and at Mifutay. And then I lost, when I went to A415, I kind of lost track of him. And then, as you say, he went up to CNC North. My brother-in-law was MIA in CNC, SOG CNC North in November of '68 in Laos. And I don't know if they knew each other or not. They may have, but Fortenberry was one heck of a good guy. I never have had contact with him since, but I liked him a lot, and we went on 2 or 3 operations together. And Elmer Bowman, the gentleman was talking earlier about Bowman. I was on 2 operations with him where we got in a little skirmish, but he was a good guy.
Yeah. Yes.
I want to remind everybody that in the toolbox on the email I sent out to you, all the other recipients are listed. That's your team. I will be moving on from here after this meeting. This week I've got 4 more meetings, and then as soon as I can organize them, I've got to do all the teams under B40. But you guys are perfectly welcome to use that toolbox to contact other members of your team and hold your own Zoom sessions and your own get-togethers in the future. So please don't wait on me to do something, because I got you this far.
Well, I appreciate your work so much to do this, and it was really great to be able to have some kind of connection with people. I don't even know y'all, but we got some kind of connection there. And
Well,
I
if
appreciate it a lot.
if all the people that I sent an email to for 411, which I think was the largest 18 listing that I have been able to put together for one team. I think I had something close to 40 emails.
Wow.
You put them all together in here, you got an absolutely perfect link covering the history of this camp. You can have 2 or 3 people from every moment of the camp history. But unfortunately, it's about a third of you are actually here. I haven't heard much because we haven't got around to it yet. But at the end of the history of the camp, you had a number of people that we've got on here who can talk about what happened at that time. Walt and David, and to some extent, James Thompson, were all there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What
Steve,
would you like to know?
this is Benny. Could I say something here?
Sure.
For John, Mark, and Terry, remember the LLDB commander that we had at Mefute? I think his name was Tiwi Tui, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Anyway, I went back to Vietnam for a second tour, and they sent me to Chi Lang down by the 7 Mountains. And I was operations sergeant there and the S2 advisor, because that same guy was the commander there. He was a lieutenant colonel. And they were looking for an officer to come in to be the S2 advisor. He says, no, I got a good one right here. So, of course, he never used me, but they had put me on the record as being one. But we went up on Nui Jai one time. We had a FOB up there. And we went up there, and he wanted to go with me. And we got up there, and he spoke perfect English by then. He said, as you can see, this is all falling apart. Vietnam is going to be done for. He said, would you sponsor me and my family? And I said, I sure will. And I gave him all my information. And after I left there coming back home, I never heard from him again. So I don't know what happened to him, but I sure hope he got out of there.
The CO, LLDB CO at the time with John Harrelson was Lieutenant Tuan, Tuan.
Okay,
Vietnamese names are impossible to locate in the United States.
Yeah.
So I every once in a while I bump into somebody, but I can't go searching for them.
Yeah, he was a very nice guy. I really liked him, and I just feel so bad that he didn't get in touch with me.
Hey, Benny,
Yes.
do you remember the LLDB team sergeant? He was about 6'2", and he'd fought either with the French or against the French.
Yeah, I remember. I don't remember his name. I remember that.
Yeah, I don't remember his name either, but he was.
It was T.
He was the one that got his backside burned real bad, wasn't he?
Yeah. Yes. Oh yeah. You want to tell that story?
Well, Terry, did you throw that cigarette in that toilet that time?
Pardon?
I asked Terry if he threw that cigarette in the toilet that time. You know, what we'd do is we'd take our latrines and we'd go out there and pour gas in it, and then we'd we'd go back later and set the gas on fire and burn the stuff in there. But this team sergeant, LLDB team sergeant, went in there one day and he was smoking a cigarette, and he sat down doing his business and dropped the cigarette into the toilet. You remember that, John?
I don't either.
Oh, I do. I remember it.
You must have been the first Vietnamese burn pit patient.
Yeah.
What I remember from the latrines, Benny,
Yeah.
what I remember from the latrines were, you know how you go to the bathroom and you sit on the toilet? Well, the problem was the Vietnamese wouldn't do that. They'd squat to the toilet with their shoes, so you'd go back in and it'd have mud all around where the toilet was. You'd try to keep them out of your bathroom because they'd track mud all over by the toilet seat. I remember that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I got a question, it's Terry. Anybody know about what happened to the cooks we first had there? We had one cook, probably a young gal, probably in her late 20s. She had a lazy eye, and she was the daughter of one of the chieftains, I think.
Right.
I think her name was Lee Tan.
I think that was her daughter Terry, I think that was her daughter that approached me when I went back to Vietnam to meet Phuc Tay. She said that her mother was a cook, and the other woman's daughter said she did the laundry. The one that was the cook one day brought me a crucifix with a cross on it, cross and a chain. Every time before we go out on an operation, she'd come over and make sure that I was wearing that necklace with the cross on it, which she gave me. She said that this will protect you. And it did. But I always remember that. I don't know what it cost her or what she paid for a gold chain with a crucifix on it, but that was the lady with the lazy eye that was the cook.
There are two sisters there at the same time. One was Ko Wai and the other one was Ko Lu. And Tan was there too. And Tan and Elma Bowman, I think they worked together in intelligence. I think she was kind of a informant. I don't know exactly what it was, but I remember all three of those girls.
Is there anybody remember?
They were like children. They were like children that had been raised in the camp. I think by the time I got there, they were part of the camp.
They had
Does anybody remember?
They had another cook who had a baby just before I got there, and her breast milk would leak through on her blouse, and so we called her Leaky Tit. And the captain didn't like us calling her that. They thought it was disrespectful, and so he tried to make us stop calling her that, and it pissed her off. She liked the name.
Does anybody remember Ko Swin?
Yeah. Yeah.
Ko Swin, yes, I remember her.
Very pretty.
I remember her.
A nurse.
We have contact with her.
Oh, really?
Hello?
That's right. I've got a webpage for A411 on Facebook, and she's on there along with Dave Vikander, J.D. Roberts, myself, Bill Ayers, and Mike Veit.
All right. Oh, yeah. Because she, wrote to me when I went to the other camp up to 414. And then even when I was back in the States, we wrote, well, she wrote to me. I don't know if I wrote back. I was a bad boy. But she was from Muckwa. And even when I visited just a few years ago, I walked around Muckwa, asked if anybody knew Swin, X-U-Y-E-N, I believe she spelled it. And interesting story. She was from North Vietnam.
That's right.
Her family was Catholic, and they had come down, when the Catholics got out of North Vietnam. And, we always kid her about being a North Vietnamese. And, but A beautiful girl, beautiful woman.
I have a photograph.
Steve, am I still on? Am I still
Yes, you're still on.
connected? It's Bill.
Yes,
Steve,
The,
am I still connected?
yes, you
It's Bill
are.
Amlong. I found some photos that might be interesting to the guys. I don't know if these will show up. I can just hold them up in front of the screen. This is B41 Muckwa. Are you receiving that?
You're not holding it up high enough.
You gotta raise it. Lift it up.
Well, we're seeing it, but it's not really something we can see well. Look,
Let's check it from the air.
I know you're far away from everybody. Bill, you're far away from humanity out there where you live. But if you find a way of having somebody digitize those photos and email them to me, I'll put them up on the website. As far as the rest of you are concerned, I have another website called specialforcesphotos.com. And you go there, but you must sign in with your whole name, your first name, middle initial, and last name, because I'm just overwhelmed by bots. And if I don't recognize the name, I throw you off right away. But once you've been recognized, I approve you. There are albums there for every single team in Vietnam, and you can put pictures into those albums yourself and write captions on them. And then somebody else can come by and say, I'm the third guy from the left in that picture. So it's a pretty good website. And I have been trying to talk to people to get them to use it because I don't have to do the work. The special forces books, I have to do a lot of work to make that happen. And in your case, Bill, I'll make the exception. If you get the pictures to me in some form or another, preferably digital, I'll put them up for you.
Say that name again, Steve.
Specialforcesphotos.com.
Steve, this is Terry again. I got a load of photos, both color and black and white, from the beginning of the camp. So I'm going to upload them probably in about a week so people can see maybe even Vietnamese. I got some Vietnamese close-ups.
Good. But go up there and sign in.
Yeah, I'm signed in. I haven't uploaded. I'm signed in already, but I haven't.
Okay, good.
I'll get to it.
Famous
I
last
had lots of slides that I had made on my 2 trips in Vietnam. And Mark Ward was looking at them one time, and he said that they were just ruining. They were just fading out. So I didn't want to bother with that. So I took them to Fayetteville, to Fort Bragg, and gave them to the SF museum there. So if any of you 401 guys are there, and you're back a few years back anyway, I don't know about now, and you saw a camp that looked very much like Mi Phu Tay and a lot of stuff about Mi Phu Tay written there, that's what it was, because she took those photos and put up a camp out back. And it wasn't just like it, but it was nice of her to do that.
Steve, could I say something, please?
Sure.
I want to talk about combat operations. We had a lot of laughs already, but for those of you that came after us, we did a few things that were kind of interesting, I think. First of all, most of the operations were company size. Sometimes we'd send a platoon out. And occasionally we'd get operations sent down to us from the B team. Over to Pocket was one. Occasionally we'd have to do a border screening operation. But the thing that's kind of humorous, I think, about the operations is we would always go out at night. We'd leave the camp at night. And before we would go out, we were only about 40 miles from Saigon. We would schedule the briefing around when TV was playing combat. And we'd make all the all the Wahows and usually 2 Americans would go. We'd all sit and watch combat as part of a little psychological preparation for the troops that were going on an operation. Yeah, Benny's laughing because he remembers that. And one of the things I wanted to say for those of you that served at Mi Phuc Thi, as you know, there was a lot of pretty serious action anytime you wanted to go get it around that camp. And I don't know how many people, were decorated for that, but as far as I was concerned, anybody that survived or got hurt while they were doing the operations or whatever certainly deserved medals for heroism. That was no cakewalk, and I'm glad that you all are still here to talk about it. I guess my proudest thing as the commander of Mi Phuc Thi was we didn't lose any Americans while I was there. A lot of you guys were wounded, and I appreciate that. But as far as I'm concerned, for my 82 years, that's one of my primary accomplishments, was not losing any of you. Okay, I'm off.
Hey, Steve?
Oh,
I'm still trying to show a picture because somebody was talking about, maybe Benny was or someone, about the woman who worked for us, who had the eyes that went this way. Well, I don't know if you can you see that, John?
hold it closer.
Can't make her out.
Can't make her out.
That's the picture you showed us before.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mark,
Lift it up a little bit.
they call that a lazy eye. It's that was Lee Tan, or she's, I thought like late 20s, something like that.
Yeah. Yep.
And
Her name was Tan.
yeah, THANH or something like that, I think.
That's correct.
Yeah.
And her sidekick was her aunt. She was older. They both were pretty tall for Vietnamese.
Hey, Jim Thompson,
Yes,
Tan was the village chief's daughter, wasn't she?
yes, he was. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I always thought she was I thought she was an intel source for us.
Yeah.
She was an intel source. And
Yeah.
We
When I
used
was
to call
there.
her, we used to call her VC.
Look, just for whatever, people who got Purple Hearts and awards for valor at A411. As far as my records go, they're incomplete. I have all the 5th group awards, but I don't have awards that were earned before 1968, when the awards came from somebody other than 5th group, or some of the higher awards. But I'm going to go backwards from 1970. I have an Archon for V with James Roberts. I have David Vikander's Archon with V. I have Jerry Veit, Archon with V. I have Russell Wright, a Silver Star. I have Bill Ayers, a Silver Star. By the way, his email didn't work. I have Whitworth, an Archon with V. Peter Dole, Bronze Star with V. Elmer Bowman, his email didn't work either. Archon with V. William Shimanukas, whose email was on the list, Archon with V.
Shimmakonis.
Yeah. Anyway, I talked to him a couple days ago. I'm surprised he didn't show up. Flanagan, another Archon. Dwayne Johnson, another Archon. Henry White, another Archon. Charles Wright, a Bronze Star. Purple Heart for Wayne Barrows. Silver Star for Wayne Barrows. Jerry Hughes, a Bronze Star with V. James Campbell, a Silver Star with V. Earl Biggs, Silver Star with V. Frank Parrish, a Silver Star with V. Anderson.
Biggs was MIA, I think.
Yeah.
Biggs, MIA.
Herbert Anderson, also a Silver Star. Manning, a Bronze Star. Francois Dubois, a Silver Star. Archon with V for Larry Manning. Clifford Carter, a Silver Star. Philip Allen, a Silver Star. George O'Toole, Silver Star. John Fitzgerald, Silver Star. Mark Atkinson, Silver Star. John Harrelson, Silver Star. Fred Kirchen, a Silver Star. I don't know if Mark's got 2 Silver Stars here, but his name shows up again. Burleson, and Burleson with a Purple Heart. So that's a pretty good record for an A team.
Phil Lugo has.
You want a couple more?
Yeah.
And
You
so
want
did
a
Bertrand.
couple more?
Well, there are awards that I don't have, and there are awards that I have listed just as C4 because they didn't tell me what camp they were at when they got the award. So there's more than these, but as a representative lot, that's a pretty good lot.
Lots of opportunity.
Well,
Yeah, there's 3 of us, Steve.
yeah.
Hey, Steve, there's 3 of us that were there at the close of the camp. I got Navy Com Vs for operations with patrol boats. It was J.D. Roberts, John Scofo, who has passed, and myself.
Well,
I also got a Bronze Star in Meritorious Service.
I have all of the 5th group awards, which I got out of the archives. But anything that came outside of 5th group, I had somebody who found some of the Silver Stars that USARE gave out. But if you have awards that I don't have, you really should make a copy and send them to me, because I maintain an extraordinary file. And even some things like I've got a lot of CIB orders, but not all. A lot of Vietnamese jumping orders, but not all. And they're very helpful. First of all, because when they're laundry lists like that, there's lots of names that are involved on the orders. It helps me cross-check my list. And the second thing is, you may have your CIB, but there's another guy whose name is on your orders and he hasn't got them. And I can't tell you how many people have been very, very happy that I was able to provide them with their CIB orders because you provided me with your CIB orders. So,
Good idea.
as I said, I've got extensive files here.
Steve, I'm going to give you a little story. One of my old medic buddies, a guy named Paul Taylor, was with the Mike Force and 3 Corps.
Right.
He got a bunch of medals early on, and he got the 2nd Silver Star 52 years later.
Wow.
Oh,
Well,
God.
those things, I'm not going to get their permanent orders. The DA issues out, and they're so wacko these days. I found a computer disk in the bowels of the Pentagon somewhere by telephone. And I asked the lady if I could pay to have a copy of that made by the guy who manufactured the disk and get that disk. And she said, no problem, that sounds good, but I better ask. I asked, and they said, nope, you can't have it. There are Social Security numbers on it. And I went through court for years trying to get that. There were 600,000 award orders in Vietnam on that disk, and they wouldn't give it to me. And at that time, I was young enough, so I would have been able to dole it all out and get lots of people to help me, making a big database for Vietnam. Now, I have a big database for SF, but I don't have those files. But right now, getting something with a Social Security number out of Washington, D.C. is like pulling teeth. We used to have to give our R&R orders to every whorehouse in Southeast Asia. And then they would take that to wrap fish with. And the Social Security numbers for us and 10 other people were on that fish wrapping. But today, it's a big deal. Mark, you're trying to get a word in here.
Well, what I would like to do, I mean, if it's okay, a little levity, bring some smiles. How many of you guys water skied on the canal? I did.
I did.
Amen with Colonel Hairline.
Colonel Hairline, right.
I did too, behind the PBR.
Without a life jacket.
I would be surprised
No.
if there were not that many, that there were a lot of people. I would not be surprised if there were a lot of people who water skied in the Delta.
I'm gonna ask a question. If you water skied in that cesspool, because they all shit and piss in it, anybody run into crap while they're in there?
Hey, Mark.
Floaters or sinkers?
Mark, are you still subject to UCMJ?
Yes, sir.
You may be getting a call next week.
Oh, did they forget to give me an award?
No.
Oh.
Well, what was it? Somebody said that Hairline was water skiing with an M16 on his back.
Right.
Probably
That was
was.
me.
All right, Walt, tell us about the closing of the camp. Have you become just a silent image back there? I haven't seen you move. Walt Fultz?
I'm here.
Okay. Tell us about the ending of the camp.
I wasn't there at the exact end of the camp. I left a few weeks prior, so I can't tell you about the last couple of days, but I do know that after our team commander, Russ Upright, was killed and J.D. Roberts came in, they slowed down, I guess, because we knew we were going to give up the camp. And the most frightening part about that was the Vietnamese weren't going to like us leaving all of a sudden, because we were the source of food, source of ammunition, source of money, and air cover, medical supplies, all that stuff. The last handful of guys that got out of there in a deuce and a half truck were really on the edge.
I believe that almost all the camps ended up with about a 3-man MACV advisory team there, but they did not stay overnight.
Well, there was several people went in and out. Don't know if they were there at the end or not. Like I said, I wasn't there on the last day.
How about those girls that worked there, Y and Twin and the interpreters? What happened to them?
Well, one of the
Did I
interpreters
jump in
made it
here?
out. I was going to say that I'm in contact with Xuan Nguyen, our nurse, and she's in contact with a couple of other people who have made it here to the States. She was put into the camp was taken over by the North Vietnamese. And when she got out of that, she found her way here stateside. And she told me who the interpreter is that was over here too, but I can't recall.
And were the other girls there that cooked and cleaned and tied? Did she get out?
Lou and Wah, the sisters, I don't know if they got out or not. I don't think Ton did. And Leak either.
Lou and Juan, when the camp closed, went to Chi Lang, the B team there, B-43. They were there when I left.
Good. They were special folks.
I have had a couple of these meetings in which Vietnamese interpreters or Vietnamese nurses participated.
Oh.
And I put a note in the message I sent to you out that if you knew people who were there in Dig, by all means invite them, because these people were there at the camp and knew more about the history of the camp than you did. They were there longer than you did. And
Schwinn was supposed to be in this meeting. She even called me just before the meeting, and she wasn't clear on the time. Apparently, she couldn't find the way to get it to connect, just like I was having difficulty.
life was difficult sometimes, but the times I've had the Indig in the meeting really added a lot to the meetings.
I do too.
I don't know if any of you all ever ate hoteo, which was a soup that the lady made down on one of the canal villages. They would shit off the one side of the pier and dip a bucket of water off the other side and come in and make that hoteo soup with noodles and pork, and that was some good stuff, man. Our medic didn't want us to eat it, but whenever we go on operation, we'd always go in there and get a bowl of that hoteo soup. It was really good.
Yeah, recycled food, pretty good.
Gotta boil the shit out of it, right?
Yeah. I got small packages from home.
I could tell a story about beer.
Go ahead.
This goes back before Me Phuc Tay. It goes back to Phu Quoc Island. One day, Air Force or Navy C-130 lands, and I think they were a bunch of reservists just killing time. They said they were doing reconnaissance airstrip. So they came in, we showed them around the camp, and we said, "Where are you going?" They said, "Philippines." We said, "If we give you some money, you think you could buy some San Miguel beer and bring it back to us?" They said, "Yeah, we can do that." So we got all the American money we had in the camp, which was about $1,500. And away they went. About a week later, they came back in with 2 or 3 pallets full of San Miguel beer, which was very difficult to get in Vietnam, as you can recall. So we immediately took most of the equipment out of the supply room and put the beer in there. From then on, we had the corner in South Vietnam on San Miguel beer. So anybody that would come out to Phu Quoc Island would have to bring us steaks, all the other types of stuff. And in return, we'd give them a couple of bottles of Nook Mom, which they made on Phu Quoc, and a case of San Miguel beer. So we lived really good as long as that San Miguel held out. I thought you might enjoy that. I don't know if anybody was there with me at the time, but we definitely cornered the world on, or Vietnam on San Miguel.
Yeah, I just want to ask another question of most of the team. Did you have a scrounge? One guy assigned to go scrounging. Our guy was Fred Kirchen.
Yep.
Yeah, and he retired as a command sergeant major. Is that correct, Captain?
Yes.
Right.
So Fred was the mouthpiece and everything else you could think of. He was a gem. 106 rifle on a Jeep we got. We didn't need it, but we got it.
Here's a story on Fred Kirchen for you. About 2 weeks before Fred was due to leave, I had to inspect his footlocker. I had to sign off on things people were bringing back to the States. Well, I found a pair of binoculars. And I said, "No, you can't take those out, Sergeant Kirchen." So I took them away from him. And a couple days later, we're on an operation and Fred got shot. And big operation. Anyhow, years go by. Years and years go by. I'm at Fort Bragg. I'm a lieutenant colonel on a ROTC encampment, and I started talking to people, and Sergeant Kirchen's name comes up. I said, "Is that Sergeant Major Fred Kirchen?" He said, "Yes." He says, "He's with the ROTC detachment in Rochester." So I said, "Give me the phone number." Picked up the phone, called Sergeant Major Kirchen. I said, "Sergeant Major, this is the Inspector General's office in Washington. And we just finally got around to a record that showed that you tried to steal some binoculars from Vietnam back in 1967. And we're continuing." He said, "Who the hell is this?" "It's Dai Huy. I just wanted to let you know you didn't get away with those binoculars at all."
Yeah, he was good, number one.
I remember the last time I saw Fred was in Fayetteville. He didn't look good.
No,
He was.
I remember.
He didn't.
Look, when they
Hey, Steve,
hold on a minute here. When they wrote this history of fifth group in 1971, the Spec 4 who wrote the history of D Company, which was one of the better histories were done, put this in there in respect to Kirchen, who was back in country again and helping him write from his own knowledge of what had gone on. Key sources were SFC Kirchen.
That'd be about right. He made sergeant right after he was wounded.
But the guy who wrote this particular part of the history recognized his input because Fred really did a good job to help him out, and this guy wrote a pretty good history for the Company D. That's
He'd always accused me of shooting him myself while we were in a firefight. I've spent the rest of his life trying to tell him it wasn't me that shot you, Fred. It was really the enemy.
Was that the time that you told me to get ready to go on operation and Fred said, no?
Right. That's exactly what it was. He had about 2 weeks left on his tour. And I said, you only got 2 weeks to go. He said, but I haven't been on any air mobile operations. They were going to pick us up, company of us, and take us up on the Cambodian border for a walk in the sun on a Sunday. And it was anything but a walk in the sun. And that's when Fred got his, and we got him out, thankfully.
Yeah, he came back. He was he was saying some choice words about you because didn't you pick him up and put him over your shoulder and carry him?
Yeah.
And he got shot in the butt.
Here's the story is, here's the story. Fred, after we get ambushed, Fred jumps up and attacks the damn Cambodia by himself. And he goes down, he yells, hey, I'm hit. So I ran over and got down next to him. You know, the safest place in the world is a dry rice paddy dike. Nothing can go through that. So we're laying there, and I said, okay, you dumbass, attacking Cambodia by yourself. I said, you'll get some kind of an award, but you'll probably get it posthumously. You got out of moan, but we got him out okay.
Hey, Captain, whatever happened,
Hey, Steve.
whatever happened to the mercenary named Frenchie? Where did he end up?
Say
He
again?
closed the camp out with us.
The mercenary, Frenchie. He was on Fuqua, then he was on MPT.
Okay, do you want the story?
Why?
Here, no, let me give you the story. Frenchie came to us on Fuquoc Island because a friend of mine at the team was looking out for him. So Frenchie became my bodyguard, really. And at Christmas Eve, we get a message saying General Westmoreland is coming to your camp the next day. Well, we had 2 round eyes in the camp, if you remember, a nurse and a donut dolly.
Yeah.
So I said, okay, we don't want Westmoreland to know we got round eyes in the camp. So when General Westmoreland's plane touches down, I have Frenchie take the hand of each girl. Remember, the camp on the island was shaped like a U. So after we did honors of General Westmoreland getting off the plane, I'm going to take him a tour around the camp. Frenchie has these girls 1 corner ahead of us the whole time that General Westmoreland goes around. So years go by, and my daughter and I go to a function and General Westmoreland's there. And I said, I got a confession to make, General Westmoreland. We did this to you at Fuquoc Island. He said, well, I got a confession to you. He said, the day before I came, I said, where was the most remote damn camp in this country? And they said, there's a little place out on Fuquoc Island. That's the reason I came to see. But anyhow, the story goes on. Frenchie goes with us to Mi Phuc Thi. Frenchie comes to me one day and wants to run an operation. And he's going to take CIDG, put him in VC clothes, and is going to see when he hits the villages who comes out to support him. And it took about 2 days for them to get captured down in Kailai. So I get a message, come to Canto, we've got people that claim they work for you. So we landed a little light airplane. The only time I remember a plane landing on that rice paddy out in front of our camp. They fly me down, and there's Frenchie. He'd been beaten to hell. They're going to shoot him. They're going to execute him. He says, "Does this guy work for you?" I said, "Absolutely." And the people that he took with him on this little adventure. So I wrote a little note back to the C team, give Frenchie a bunch of money, and said, "Make your way to Canto. They'll send you back out to Fuquoka Island." It's the last I ever heard of Frenchie, but he almost bought the farm on that little operation we were running. Covert.
Yeah, he was good and vicious. That's what I remember.
That's the story on Frenchie, as far as I know.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. Just wanted to know. Thank you.
You talked about all these people that were the cooks, etc. What do you think about the food that you got served by those cooks?
Good. Good.
Good. Real good.
Yeah.
Best food that Fred Kirchens could scrounge from the 9th Infantry Division, and same thing in Saigon.
Yeah, we had a whole building full of 40-ounce cans or number 10 cans of everything. Peaches. We had flour. We baked cakes on the little stove we had and everything. Oven. So
you remember coming off operations, we'd call it and say there damn well better be some cold beer in the refrigerator when we come through the gate.
Yeah. Well, we were lucky too. We had 2 10 kW generators.
There you go.
That was another scrounge, right?
Exactly.
Mark,
Was 5 kW backup.
Was the python there underneath the water tower when you guys were there? One named Snuffy?
No.
It was a huge python that Hank White, I guess he caught it, but he used to feed that python a rat every now and then, but his name was Snuffy.
Was that the B-41?
Python.
That was B-41.
Mark, don't need to raise your hand, just speak.
Oh, well, I don't have my hearing aids in. So anyway, when the Daiwi found out that my secondary MOS was 91B2S, I got to go on more operations with him.
Do you like it?
You know, a medic is a medic.
I think the other thing is officers like to have a medic close by.
Now, you remember the Special Forces reunion we went to? After we'd had a few drinks, you came up and told my wife we have to make an admission that we never would walk near the Daiwi because he was the biggest guy around and we knew that they were going to be shooting at him. So we always got as far away from him as we could.
That was me. I used to go about 6 or 8 people back from you because you're similar to 6'2", something like that.
Yeah.
I'm only 5'8", so I could scrunch over like the Vietnamese.
Look, I had a story about medics, which I think is illustrative. I was dealing with medics in 46 Company in Thailand, talking to them about their history. And one guy said, I had a very uneventful tour. I was a medic here, but one thing did happen. He said, this spook type came and he said, you're assigned to me and you come with me. And I did a walking tour for 2 weeks in Burma. And I said, you know, that's a very dubious story. But I had a friend who was a spook type in Thailand, and I called him up. And he said, yes, that was me. I was supposed to go on this walking tour of Burma to the Shan states. And they said, I can take one person with me. Who do you want? And he said, I want a Special Forces medic. He didn't want a weapons man. He didn't want a radio operator. He wanted an SF medic. So that just shows you the value of that 91B.
Yeah, yeah.
Do any of
Hey,
you medics
Dave.
know Harry Matthews? Is he a acquaintance of yours?
Who?
Harry Matthews. He was a medic at A414, I think, and the B team, and then he had another tour up in the northern part of Vietnam. But he lives here where I live, and
He lives
he
in
was
Rocky Mountain, North Carolina now.
Yeah, he's in chapter
I talked to him
33.
last month.
yeah,
He
chapter
did not
33.
show
that's
for
right.
the B41 meeting, but I hope he shows for the B4114 meeting, right?
I think so. I think that's what you have him listed. I looked at it. He tried to get in on the Zoom call this morning, but he couldn't get in. He called me and asked me about it.
Well, you better help him out. You help him out. How about that?
Yeah, I had a hard time too, but I finally got it in. So, another funny story about Mi Fu Tay and Shimmaconis, not Shimmaconis, but the guy. Damn, I'm losing my mind. The guy we were talking about that you couldn't get in touch with that went up to CNC North.
Canterbury?
Fortenberry.
Shimmaconis. No, not
Fortenberry.
Shimmaconis. What's his name?
Fortenberry.
Fortenberry was in the shitter out there one day, and somebody slipped a damn smoke grenade in the back of it. And I've got a picture somewhere. If I can find it, I'll give it to you, of him with the door open, sitting on the toilet with the yellow smoke coming out of the bathroom.
Well, that just shows if you don't come to a meeting, you get talked about.
Hey, yeah, that's true. And but there was a lot of funny things that went on, but nobody. I don't ever remember anybody having any bad issues at all when I was there. Although I mentioned to you the first time I talked to you about the guy that left the operation, and I can't think of what his name was. He was an E7. I think he was an Intel guy, but he left an operation, walked back to the camp by himself, and went to the Canto and committed suicide at the C team. Do you know who that was?
Doesn't ring any bells. Let me look here and see if I can see anybody.
He was an E7, and I don't know why he did that, but we were on an operation towards Calais, and he left. He just disappeared. We didn't know what the hell happened to him, and he got back and got on a helicopter that came in and went back to Canto, and a few days later he committed suicide.
I don't see anybody who was listed as a DNH from this camp.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
That would have been in probably October of '68 or September.
October '68.
And I can't for the life of me think of his name.
I do have a couple funny stories if you bear with me.
Keep going.
The first one deals with one day a helicopter lands and drops off, I don't know, 15 or 20 3.5 rocket launchers and maybe 50 or 60 rounds.
He said you can't come.
Here we are in the Delta, and they're dropping off these anti-tank weapons. We remember didn't have much storage, particularly if it rained, everything was going to get wet.
Oh,
so the question becomes, what do we do with these 3.5 rocket launchers? How are we going to get rid of them? Because I don't anticipate any tanks coming down from Mukwa.
I can't get on this.
Why not? Did you
So
try?
what we did was we would have a couple Vietnamese carry the 3.5 rocket launcher itself in 4 rounds. We go out and patrol, and you know how you used to get a little sniper fire from the tree lines? They probably were telling the other folks we were coming.
Oh, yeah.
Put the 3.5 rocket launcher together, put the round in, kind of point it up halfway to the sky and shoot in that direction where you can see a rocket flying all that way from a rocket launcher. It would blow a humongous hole in the rice paddies and scare the hell out of them, and they'd run off. So we kind of used up all the 3.5s they sent us as a terror weapon to scare the folks off. That was one thing we did with 3.5s. Anybody remember those 3.5 rocket launchers?
No, not me, no. There's one story I heard, maybe you can clarify, maybe you or Mark. Did they take a 57 recoilless rifle out on an operation, fire it at a hooch, and it went right through the hooch? Of course, it didn't explode. You know, there's nothing to the hooches. I heard something like that. Was that true?
Was that the one that was fired at the camp?
No, we took it out on an operation. I wasn't on the operation, but I think it was Sullivan took it. And
pretty heavy.
57. This is a small one.
57 was heavy.
Oh yeah, but we didn't carry it. Now, but I'm just thinking like the old John Wayne movies where he throws a grenade in a house and it's up against a bamboo thing, and guess what? He gets blown away with it too.
Never. Story.
There was another time when the 9th Division was running a staging area on our little road outside of the camp, and I guess it was a battalion size operation because there was a lot of helicopters, and a lieutenant colonel got off of one of the helicopters to come into the camp, walked into the tail rotor of the helicopter, and of course he had his helmet on. It didn't kill him, but he sure got his attention, and we took him in there and got him, put him on a medevac to wherever, Saigon, I guess. But that was one of the funny things that happened there. It didn't hurt him bad, just dinged him up a little bit.
It shows you how screwed up things were, even though we made it through it. One time I think we had a little something going on down the road between the camp and Kylie. And I think a bunch of VC were shooting at us across the canal. So the company crossed the canal, go after them. We put another company, try to cut them off down towards the double Y. And then we had a third company, one of our companies piled on. So I got 3 companies in operation, and a helicopter lands. And the guy says, hop in, Captain, you're going to be command and control. You got 3 companies in combat here. So we take off, and I look up front, and the guy flying the helicopter is an infantry lieutenant colonel, and here I am, a captain with about 1 month in grade. And I thought, how screwed up is this? Here we got a lieutenant colonel infantry flying this thing, and they got me, a captain with all day in grade running this operation. Oh, I never forgot that.
I guess he had his air medal. Huh?
I guess. I mean, talk about a screwed up way of doing business.
Now, John, I don't know if you'll remember, but when Carrie and Woody were wounded on, this was June
pocket
7th, 8th, and 9th, something like that. I was a company commander because I was with you. The 2 guys with the other company were wounded and medevac, so I had to take over a company. So I am known as the SP5IC.
One of the interesting things, and probably you guys that were in the camps beyond, it's utterly amazing that you would send 2 Spec 4s out on an operation with a Vietnamese company and trust them to do command and control, call in airstrikes, adjust artillery. Where the hell else in the world would you spend 2 21-year-old Spec 4s out to do stuff like that? And it worked. And I'm still.
They were Green Berets, that's why.
I'm still amazed to this day.
Daiwi, there was only 1 Spec 4, and that was Sullivan. I was a Spec 5.
Oh, excuse me. Wow.
Well, come on now.
Well, hey, Fred was a Spec 4.
Hey, I remember.
Kirchen, he was a Spec 4 before he got.
I remember when. Yeah.
But when
only your 12 Bravos were Spec 5s. I remember only your 12 Bravos were Spec 5s, and I remember when they took it away from us, gave us hard stripe. We didn't like it. We liked the distinction.
The only person I can find that comes close to your description was a Spec 4 in June of '68 at C4. And his name was Rex Doyle. He died non-hostile accidental self-destruction. I can't find an SFC, so it may not be everything that you thought it was.
In June of '68.
June of '68.
Yeah, this was after that. I didn't know that. I didn't know that person.
I've gone down until through the end of '68, and I don't find anybody who is a non-hostile death.
Yeah.
That is comparable to that. There are a lot of helicopter accidents and other things, but nothing that would be comparable to.
I wrote a letter to my wife, and I have it in. And I'll find out who it is. I'll get it and give it to you.
Yeah, okay. I can look him up because he's in my, whoever it is, he's in my database. Whatever the answer is, we'll find out.
Hey, John.
Yo.
You was talking about the two specs going out on operation. That night down at Medah, or Meam, whatever that's called down there, when they brought that Puff the Magic Dragon in, I had no idea what I was doing, but I guess I must have done a good job because Sully and I lived through it. But I really learned a lot in directing that plane. And I'll tell you, that was one horrible sight, because those machine guns didn't go bang, bang, bang. They went, ooh. And I went out the next morning out in the area there, which was just right out from where we were. And I mean, it was just blood spots, pieces of bodies, stuff like that laying around. I knew Sully was kind of sick at his stomach about that kind of stuff, and I wouldn't let him go with me. I told him, you stay here and I'll go out there and look around. But I learned if I have to direct another airplane, I've got it down pat now.
Hope you don't have to.
I hope so too. That pilot, he turned his running lights on to leave, and he said, "Did you see where that came from?" I said, "Yeah, I was looking right at it." He said that shot right up between him and the co-pilot, and just took all that, whatever was in there, took it out. But when he came back around, and he left that time, that nobody bothered him.
Another thing that I used to worry about on night operations is you're never sure just how, you would try to send, an area, maybe 4 or 5 or 6 things on the map where you were going to go, because you were worried about what were called firefly missions. They'd be flying over at night with a spotlight down on you. And more than half the time, I don't think the word ever got back to anybody. So you'd be on an operation and here they'd come, the one with the circle, and then the one behind them being the gunship. And you thought, man, this is a dangerous situation. This could be some real friendlies. You didn't have any way of communicating with them. And you were kind of out there on the cutting edge, hoping your own people didn't fire you up.
And Sully and I ran into that one day. We'd been out the rest of the night and most of the day, and we're on our way back to Mifute, to the camp. And we had on black PJs. And we saw these helicopters come over, and they went on past us and went down and turned back. And I said, "Sully, they're ready for a gun run. Get on the radio and call Wally and tell him to get them off of us." And the darn radio wouldn't work. So Sully went over and got the LLDB's radio and called in and got them off of us. Otherwise, I tell you, I think that would have been a bloody mess.
Yeah.
Steve,
Yeah.
I went to visit, like I said, well, you know, I don't know if you know, but I spent 15 months in a hospital at Fitzsimmons for wounds below the knees for both of them. And Sully came when he got out, because Sully was a draftee, had no security clearance. I have no idea how he ended up on an A team. But he, like I told you before, he was a very, very bright person. And so we did a little partying, you know, around the hospital and stuff like that. And then he went back to Brooklyn, then he went to Florida, and then he came back for a funeral of some kind when he was murdered. And so later, my wife and I went to see the Sullivans at 716 Carroll Street in Brooklyn. And it was very moving, because Sully's father was a postman. His mother was from Iceland, as I told you, and his brother was a good guy, and so was his sister. But it was, my son is named Patrick, after Patrick. And so I don't know where I'm going with this, so I'll shut up.
Jim, you've been pretty quiet back there.
Yeah, just taking everything in. Yeah, this guy's.
Yeah, we got a lot of officers here and a lot of junior EM here, but we haven't got a lot of perspective here from the core of the special forces, which are the senior NCOs. So why don't you give us a little bit more from your point of view?
As to, you know, in Mifuktai, when I first got there, you know, I saw they had the 155s howitzers, you know, and I thought, well, and they were they were not in the firing mode. They were just leveled. I mean, the barrel leveled, and the first thing I thought was, you know, here we got a 155 grazing fire. I said, ain't that something? I said,
uh-oh.
Yeah. But yeah, it was a lot of interesting things, you know, working with my counterpart, the intel sergeant when I first got there, working with him, you know, and we would go together, we would go on operation with, you know, with the company signs or whatever. And he would say, you know, we're going to make contact today. And I said, yeah. I said, every time we go out, if I go out with you, we do make contact, you know, sometimes small and sometimes large, you know, large groups that we in. And we were mentioning about the camp, Mifuktai camp, as you're moving out to the different tree lines. There was just 3 different tree lines. You know. The first tree line we would enter, it was a bit like a sniper fire. It was small on fire. Get to the second tree line, things picked up a little bit. And we got to the third tree line, shit was really, you know, it was, you know, and I think about that even today, you know, it's an area here where I live in Michigan. It's not far from one, and I drive down and I look, and there's a tree line. I said, damn, you know, similar to, you know, Mifuktai in that area. And then I look further ahead, and there's another tree line just beyond, and then another one. God damn, you know. brings back memories, you know.
Oh, yeah.
But you know, the people that we had in Mifute, you know, the Americans, you know, they were all you know, dedicated hardcore people, you know. And there was a time, you know, when I would go operations with my counterpart, and there was the other Vietnamese weapons sergeant that we would go out. And as a rule, you know, when you're done with the operation, you come back and you have you critique operation went. Yeah. So you know how the Oriental, you know, when they lose face, it's what's called embarrassment, in other words. So we went out. I recall going out on the operation to come back with this guy. So we sat down and we went over, you know, how the operation went, the planning, and so forth. So, and I pointed out some of the mistakes that I made, some of the mistakes that he made. Well, he didn't like that. You know, he really didn't like that. So the next day I come back, and the nurses there that were in the camp, the nurses that we were talking about earlier, he said, Chung Si, they got a contract out on you. I said, what do you mean it's got a contract? He said, well, you know, when you went on the operation and you came back and you did a debriefing, you know, he said, well, he didn't like that. So they're telling me, I got to watch my back, watch your back, because, you know, they're coming for you. And I said, and I'm thinking, ain't this something, you know, here I am, you know, dealing with this situation now. I got to watch my back from this guy. This is crazy. It's crazy. Yeah. So, but yeah, you know.
Jim, you talking about T? Is that correct?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, he was killed, you know.
Yeah. You know, my team leader, Captain Samuel, when I got there, he briefed me on Captain T. I think of his name. He said, watch this guy when you go out on operation, you know, because he's not the bravest guy in the universe, you know. So I said, okay. So I think it probably is my second operation when I'm going out, and I'm going out with T. I said, okay, here we go. And the minute I saw what was happening, you know, the minute we came under contact, I said, yeah, I see what Captain Savage was talking about. This guy's panicking. You know, he's really afraid of what's going on. So I said, well, if we get out of this one, you know, I can, I'll understand. Maybe we can work things out rather than do something. But yeah, it was interesting, to say the least. Interesting.
That was VY? VY, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah, something similar. Yeah.
That's the listing I've got here.
Yeah. And this guy, 1969, you know, late 69, and I'm figuring out, you know, the intel reports that I'm receiving, and then I'm looking at what he's doing, and the amount of money that he somehow skimming off the troops and stuff. He was I think his take was something about 70,000, I'd say, a month. 70,000 a month. Then, you know, I'm thinking about US dollars. 70,000 a month.
US dollars?
Yeah, US dollars. You know, you got the LLDB, you know, the CIDG payroll. you know. And you got the guy, he's hired from the village to come in, dress up as camp, you know, in the camp, you know, the CIG troop. Yeah, they're going through one end of the pay line, going out the other one, and then handing him, you know, their salary. And I'm thinking, you know, and I'm counting how much these guys are making, you know, in piastres at the time, you know, and I'm thinking, and I'm adding this stuff up, and it's around $80,000 a month. 1968, 69 salary.
Well, he's sharing a lot of that up the ladder.
Yeah. A lot going up the ladder. Yeah.
Benny said, well, I'll have to wait till Benny gets back to find out what he was talking about him being killed. Because I think he was there. He was certainly there at the end of 69.
Mm-hmm.
And the camp was only open for a couple more months.
No.
So I don't see any indication that he got killed.
Mm-mm. No, but he was, but his senior NCO, I think it was T, the guy we mentioned earlier. Someone mentioned earlier about T in the camp. He got killed.
That's the NCO, not the
right. His senior NCO.
Yeah. Okay. Well, V survived to create havoc elsewhere.
Yeah.
Okay. There you are. You came back again.
Yeah.
Battery thing.
Well, you were gone for virtually the whole of everything here. You're still frozen. Why don't you go ahead? We can hear you very well. So why don't you go ahead and tell us your time there?
Okay, I got there in June of 69. Some of the names are mentioned on here. Of course, Jim Thompson was there. Let's see, Bowman, Shumakonis was there from the team before me. And I think there was about 10 of us when we quit there in March 20, 1970. Lost a number of guys since then. John Scofo was a sheriff of Georgia, I think. Don't know what caused his death. We lost, the last team sergeant we had, Tommy, God, the last name.
Strickland.
Tommy Strickland. Yeah, we lost him recently. One thing I remember about that, we got mortared every freaking night for months and months. And it was just 10 rounds, anywhere from the sun dipped below the horizon to right before it came up. And every night, man, sometimes they'd get some of us and sometimes they wouldn't. But I do recall that H&I fire. And when we announced the date of our camp closure, the shelling stopped. And what's really weird about this, we figure out who in the fuck is murdering us, where are they from, you know. One day, I found some of the tail sections of the mortars that were sticking down through the mud. And I looked at that, and I looked at that, and I went, there's something to this. I couldn't figure it out. Many decades later, it finally dawned on me where that mortar was at. It was out on the Plain of Reeds, caddy corner to the camp there. And up that canal, out in that direction, we had a Chau out there. And I'm pretty certain that he was involved with that mortaring. Just kind of put that together years later. Another story about this guy, I was out there blowing some shit up alongside the canal, and I placed everything just right. I put an 81 illumination on the top of this big stack. It was about 4.5 feet high of bad lot ammo was blowing up, and touched it off. And that illumination round didn't destruct. Instead, it went sizzling off, flying end over end. And guess where it landed? Right on that Chau hooch and burnt that son of a bitch to the ground. So maybe that's why he turned on us, huh? Because I burned his house down.
Amen.
Yeah, it was, morale really sucked. Morale sucked there towards the end. It was, it was not fun at all. Not fun at all. There was a MACV team there. Those guys were not too excited about being left by the Special Forces guys because we kicked everybody's ass around there. That's the way it was. And then I heard, I was out at B43 Chilang and I heard some guy one of the guys I know from Makwa had drove by there. And he said that camp had been just brutalized. It was almost destroyed. It got hit so bad. Knocked down the 50 tower and that sort of thing. And I really felt bad for the people we left behind. It was something that bothered me for decades and decades. And finding Swen, what's that?
It bothers us all for decades and decades.
Still bothers me too, terribly.
Yeah.
And then we have
Yeah,
Afghanistan.
one of them things, part of the legacy. Special Forces in Vietnam. I imagine our guys in Afghanistan and Iraq feel the same way.
Yeah.
Can I have a second?
Mark?
I wear two bands of casualties from Afghanistan. One of them is Bob Oxner's son. I see that he's on the list, but he's not signed in. And the other one is, his last name is Ross, Drew Ross. And Drew's father was my son's soccer coach at VMI. And you're looking at these two guys. I mean, these kids, well, they're not kids, but Oxner was killed in 06 and Ross was killed in 18. And when you know their parents, different kind of thing. Again, I don't know where I'm going with this. I apologize.
Yeah.
You're good. You're good.
That's all right. I know what you mean.
Yeah, we were kids too.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember. I can't remember coming home and getting any shit from anybody.
Came home to the hospital.
Pardon?
You came home to the hospital, didn't you?
Oh yeah, 15 months in Denver, but
yeah, you didn't have to pass through the airports in Oakland.
Well, I mean, I was on crutches and uniform. I will tell you a story about being on crutches and not in uniform. So I'm at a Denver Bronco game. It's played in North Platte, Nebraska, and the Oakland Raiders are playing the Denver Broncos. And my brother, who's a Vietnam vet as well, 11th Armored Cav, my brother has a big mouth. This was before Vietnam. So he's making fun of LaMonica, or he's making fun of, not LaMonica, but whoever the Denver quarterback was, just going after it. And I said, Danny,
We'll find out. Okay, we got it.
You need to lighten up. So anyway, we start to walk out, and guess what?
Yeah.
We are confronted by a number of men who were wearing broad brim hats, and we got ready to get into it, and I backed up to the fence, and I took my crutches. I stood on one, I took the other one, and just swung it. And this one guy had the nerve to say to me, "Put down your crutch and fight like a man." Well, no, I'm not gonna. Anyway, that's, you need a little smile every once in a while, right, Mr. Thompson?
Yeah.
Yeah, a little smile every once in a while.
Hey guys, I see that Swen Nguyen has joined us. You see her now?
Hi, guys.
Hello.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
don't remember.
Swen, our pretty little nurse.
I don't remember any of you,
No.
but it's so nice to be here.
Coach Win?
Yes.
You wrote to me sometimes when I left and I went up to Town Tree,
Yeah.
414, and then back in the States, I think you wrote to me. Bob Rucker.
And your name?
Bob Rucker.
Bob Rucker.
I was a lieutenant. I was only at the camp a couple of months.
Really? Yeah.
Yeah.
See, most of the time we were there, I was kind of busy in the dispensary, you know, so.
Yeah, I remember where you were.
Yeah, and then the only time I'm up in the mess hall is for lunch or dinner, and then
Right.
back down to the dispensary. So don't have much time to socialize with you guys.
Do you know what happened? Do you know what happened to Kowa and Ko Lu and Ko Tan?
Ko Lu. Last time I heard, she back into what they call. In her native town, and I think she married to a special force major or captain, whoever it is. Yeah, that's what last time I heard about it. Yeah.
Vietnamese special forces.
Yeah. I think some of the team members probably know better than I do.
So she from Triton, wasn't she?
Who?
Triton.
Tan?
The village. That's where she.
Yeah. Yeah. So, so we don't look the same anymore, are we?
No.
You're still beautiful, Swen.
Excuse me?
You are still beautiful.
Oh,
May I say that?
Miss 70 now. Miss 70 now.
Still on.
Swin, was your family from Makwa?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, after they closed the camp, I went to Tien. I don't know what Tien came.
415.
415. Okay. I worked there for a little while, and then moved back to Mokwa, and I worked for the at that time they called course, and then later they changed it to consulate general. So I worked until the communists took over the south.
Didn't you work in Saigon for a while too?
No, just in Mokwa.
No? Makwa?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the communists, when they came to town, the first one, they're probably looking for me.
Sure.
Yeah. Because when I worked for the consulate general, I was probably doing more work with all the provincial government official, so they accused me of CIA left behind, you know that?
Oh boy.
I know. Yeah, it's not fun. Yeah.
And your family was Catholic and were from North Vietnam originally?
Yeah, our family, we fled to North Vietnam in 1954. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And then came to the South when I was just 6 or 7 years old. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they're the same coastwind I knew in Mi Phuc Thé.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Swin, were you at Tuen when with Perry Browning?
At Tien, when I know one of the my boss, I don't know what his name. He got wounded and then sent back to the United States. I don't know what his name. I would like to hear from him. I mean, he was my boss, and yeah, I definitely want to hear from him again. But I don't know.
When was that?
I think it's like early, somewhere in 70 or 71. I think 70 or 71 between that.
Okay, that's not at 411. That was after that.
Oh, really?
What camp was he in?
Tien.
Okay, that's 415.
Yeah, 415. Yeah.
Okay.
And you were from Mifutay too?
No, I'm just the organizer here.
Oh, okay.
Okay, and the person you talked about was wounded and medevaced?
Yeah, at one point he went on an operation, and the last time I heard he got wounded, and then
he was a commander?
No, he was a medic, team medic.
He was a team medic.
Yeah, I work under his supervision. Yeah.
Yes, that's Jimmy Fox. Is that name ring a bell? Jimmy Leon Fox.
Really?
In May of 1970, he was medevac.
Oh.
And he should have been here because he got an email from oh no. If he comes, he's at 415. So
yeah.
That's Friday.
Yeah.
Thursday.
Yeah.
Thursday.
Yeah. So if you happen to get in touch with him and say, you know, I'm his nurse.
Your name here that's not your name, that's somebody else's name.
Swen. My name is Swen Wen. I use a different laptop to get into the meeting because my iPad doesn't work.
So your name is Swin Nguyen.
Yes.
Okay. Let's see if I can do this right.
Yeah, Swen Nguyen.
May I say something?
Say something. Don't ask for it. Just say it.
Well, I'm going to address this to the young lady. I don't know a lot of Vietnamese, but let me try this one. Dep Lam Co.
Oh, thank you. You are so kind. Thank you.
Wow.
But you know, in Mifutay, I think around like 68 to 69 between that. But any of the member remember at one point the camp was went out in operation and got saved by the enemy. And then the rest of the team and the troop in the camp went out to rescue them. And I was the only one left in the camp with a commo sergeant. So any of them remember that?
This was just before Tet?
I think either before or after Tet, but I remember, you know, I was the only one in the camp who ran the dispensary. And I think I drove the 3/4 ton truck to pick up the wounded.
Good for you.
I never learned how to drive before, and I think I was.
Is this January of 68?
No clue, but I vaguely remember the definite time. But the members still clear that I was at that point, and then the other team member went out to rescue the SAIS units, and the only commo sergeant and I were left in the camp.
Oh.
So he said, well, you know, keep the line open. If any medevac need, just call me, but I can't leave the bunker. I say, okay. And then, you know, at that point, I think we were worried about the camp being run over by the enemy because they knew that nobody left in the camp. So, yeah, so I think I got a rifle. But I don't know who at that point, you know, that remember and clearly what going on at that point. I would like to hear from him a commo sergeant who was there, were there at that point. But I wrote the story about that, you know, and it's just thinking back about it, and I say, how could we manage to pass that point, you know? Because as he said that, you know, possible that the camp going to be run over. So here's a rifle, you know, try your best to shoot. And I say, okay, I don't know how to shoot, but interesting.
Yeah, I was waiting for her to say that.
Yeah, but you know, right after incident, you know, I would train how to shoot, but not sure how good it was, but yeah, you have to learn how to shoot a rifle.
I remember seeing you with the wounded in the dispensary, taking care of the wounded, you were like a doctor. You were tremendous in there. You were working under Sergeant Fortenberry, right?
Yeah.
Fortenberry, yeah.
Yeah.
And you were both like doctors when the wounded were coming in. I think they had been shelling the local village, and the wounded were being brought into the camp. Yeah.
Yeah, there was what do you call Ryan Furman. Do you remember?
Yeah.
Yeah. Is he here at the meeting?
Ryan Furman, yes.
Yeah. So I worked under his at one point, and it was funny because I think it was on one weekend, and an elderly lady from the village brought in the dispensary with the big cut on her head, and it was bleeding so bad. So I sent someone to go get him, but he was drinking. So we said, well, we might as well take care ourselves. It's a Vietnamese VN medic. So, he's drinking. So I don't know if he can handle it. So I said, okay. We tried to stop the bleeding. We put stitch and everything done. So he went down. He said, who gives you the authority to do it? And I say, well, she's bleeding so bad, and somebody need to take care, or you're gonna die. She's gonna die, So he was saying all the nasty thing about. You see, all I heard about you when I was in the United States is you guys just a bunch of monkeys stealing and all that. And I said, really?
Really?
And I was sat there crying. I was like, oh Lord, being insulted like that, But later, when he sober up, he said, "Oh, I'm sorry, we apologize." But I did find him when here, because at one point I was on one of the chapter for event. So they post my story on the website, national website. So he recognized, so he contacts me. So we found each other, yeah. But I don't think he joined the team, what do you call it, the 411 team we have in the Facebook. Yeah. Yeah, it's a lot of things. Yeah, I worked from 67 until 70, yeah, something like that. Yeah. Yeah. You guys were the point where they sheltered the camp and they burned down the dispensary?
No.
Yeah, so we moved the dispensary was used later on was a new one. The one that near the gate was used to be the old dispensary. They got burned down from the mortar shell.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean.
We rebuilt that and turned it into a storage area.
What's that?
We rebuilt that where the dispensary was. We rebuilt it and turned it into a storage area.
Oh, really? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that when I first started my job was there. And the medic, I think his name is Richardson or somewhere, he got killed too. Yeah. Sorry to hear that too. And later another my boss called Anderson got killed too. Yeah, we lost quite a few members of our team in the camp.
My old team.
Yeah. And
I don't know the Anderson guy, but I do know that they opened up a little clinic in the village and they named it in Anderson's honor. His parents actually came over, I heard.
yeah, I mean, yeah, that's down the village. Yeah. We go there and work in the afternoon for the at that clinic. In the morning we have it in the camp. Yeah, I think one of the cook, the not Kulu or Kohwa, but the skinny one with the long hair. She I don't know what her name. Yeah, but she used to live in that village. Her father was a village chief or something there. Yeah. So Tan, yeah, Gotan.
Yeah. She was,
Head cook.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And at dispensary, I was the first one to live in that dispensary when the camp was built. So I'm glad I wasn't there when it was blown up.
Yeah, but you mean, were you there when that Richardson was working there as a medic?
I was the first medic there, me and Richardson. Yeah, Richardson was my boss and I was the second guy. Richardson, he stayed in the inside camp and I stayed by the gate.
Oh, okay.
We wanted the dispensary by the gate because we didn't want too many locals coming deep into the camp.
Okay. So were you there when I start my job?
I don't think so. There was an older, I had an older woman assistant. You were very young.
Yeah, I know her. Yeah, she died of cancer later on. Yeah.
Yeah, she was the assistant I used. So.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I think I started somewhere in the mid of 67 or somewhere.
Okay, wow, early, yeah.
Yeah, could be.
Gonna stop at 7, it's 6:54.
Yeah, he's gonna have to wrap it up.
Okay, so we're wrapping it up, but it's good to be able to get in here.
Wow.
Yeah.
Program.
So are we going to have more meeting like this future? Yeah.
That's up to the rest of the people over here to organize it.
Okay.
Okay, but you now all have each other's addresses. I don't know where, I don't have your address, but Walt has got your address or what?
You mean an email address, you mean? Yeah. Okay, so it's start with my first name, Xuyen, and THINGUYEN at yahoo.com.
Okay.
At what con?
Yahoo.
Yahoo.com. Yeah.
Yahoo?
All one word, right?
Yeah, all one word. Yeah.
Okay.
XUYEN.
I just put your name up there on your screen.
You got it?
Do you see it on the screen under your picture?
I see it.
See it?
Yeah, but it's all one word, Mark.
Oh, one word. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
At Yahoo.
At yahoo.com. Yeah. So any future meeting, please let me know.
Thank you for being here.
Well, nice seeing all of you. I don't remember any of you when you were young, but it's nice to see you. We still alive.
Well, as the Daiwi could tell you, all the Americans behaved when they're at Mifukte.
Okay.
I hope so. I hope that's true.
You know Daiwi V?
He was the Vietnamese captain, right?
Yeah, Vietnamese captain. Yeah.
Well, I know, but I call him the Daiwi anyway.
Oh.
Harrelson, Captain Harrelson.
Now, he's talking about the Daiwi over the American Daiwi.
Yeah.
American Daiwi. Okay.
Right.
But very nice seeing all of you. And
Right. Well, look, can you give us any more information about the other Vietnamese at the camp? What happened to them when the camp closed?
I have Mr. Bear was the interpreter, combat interpreter. So I think Waterford and Davis know. And yeah, we will be able to get him on the Facebook with David and other members.
So he is in the United States?
Oh no, he's still back in Vietnam.
Okay.
Yeah.
But alive.
Yeah.
Married.
I went and visited him in 2015 and went into his coffee and cocoa plantation. It was nice. Yeah, and he married his wife. She also used to be a nurse and a midwife at the camp too.
Yeah.
His name was Don D.A.M.
Yeah.
He has a coffee plantation now?
Yeah, coffee plantation and cocoa.
How did he manage to do that with the communists?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, at this point, I think the communists let people own land so they can cultivate, but
they usually only let their friends own the land.
Yeah, true. But well, somehow he managed to own quite a few acre. I mean, I think they're around like 10 or more than 10 acres of land. So he planted coffee and cocoa plant. It was good.
In the Delta?
No, it's somewhere in like
The lot.
not the lot. It was halfway to the lot. It's called like 3 court, third court. We're in the 4th court, but
Yeah, third
court.
court.
Yeah.
Have to have a little bit of
Yeah.
time for that.
Yeah.
Anybody else? What happened to the LLDB?
LDB. I think the that Vietnamese captain that the last time I heard somebody say that he's in the United States and probably somewhere in Massachusetts, but don't know. I haven't met him yet, so and I don't want to meet him too. All the LLDB then they hate us, I don't know.
Right. How about the other nurses, the other cooks?
That pretty much I know. That's one that from the village called Tien, and the other 2 back into her native city. So last time I heard from our team member that they were married to one of the official. Yeah.
How were you locked up afterward?
Lock up where?
Re-educated.
Oh yeah.
How long?
2 years.
Wow.
And then after that, I tried to escape, so I got locked up like 2 more times. It was fun. Yeah, but it's nothing like what they call the Hilton. Yeah, it's the bottom of the hell there.
But the other Vietnamese that you know about, they didn't go to the re-education camps.
Oh, a lot. Yeah, I mean, all the high.
What can I do for you?
Yeah, high-ranking of official in the city. Yeah, they.
What can I do for you?
Right, but not from the camp. The other cooks.
Yeah,
the interpreters.
no, they don't go. The reason I was locked up because I was working for the consulate general right after I left the camp. I worked there for 4 or 5 years, and I often accompany like a high-ranking official, government. I mean, provincial government official. So they think I'm doing something important there. So
were you working as an interpreter, or you working as a nurse?
Well, working at the what do you call it? Consulate general is
Right.
We call it area development specialist.
Okay.
So I'm the connecting dot between the U.S. government and VN government for support and aid. So that's the connection.
How about any kind of retribution to the CIDG?
I have no clue. I mean, after the camp closed,
Don't get her into trouble.
They all converted to another what do you call the
Ranger battalion.
like ranger or something.
Yeah.
Regional forces.
Yeah, regional fort or ranger. Yeah, because Mr. Dien was the interpreter. He was transferred to ranger units.
You remember Mock?
Who?
Mock, the interpreter Mock. He was he spoke very good English.
I'm not sure. Yeah, I think the only interpreter I remember well is Mr. Bear because his wife worked as the nurse with me. So he often come down to the dispensary and hang out with her. So that's how I remember well. But after that, I don't really remember it. Yeah. Yeah. But now the place where that used to be the camp is like booming. they building like a city right now.
Really?
Yeah. So maybe someday we could go back for a tour. Probably won't be able to recognize that place anymore. Yeah. And
I
so
think
the
we had
main-
2 people here who have been back, and they said, no, there's nothing left to the camp.
Yeah, nothing left of that. Yeah, it's all redeveloped for something else. And the road that we used to use that as the provincial road to go to the Saigon before, it changed. They cut it into like the other way. So that's only the small road to Kailai or somewhere nearby. Yeah. Yeah, we no longer use that as we call it provincial highway to Saigon anymore. And they're all paved, you know, roads are all paved. No more
Sherman,
mining. No more mining.
Sherman, listen, Hathaway, I'm gonna have to cut out of here, but I've enjoyed listening to all y'all's stories and everything. I hope to see you again sometime. And Coach Quinn, thank you so much for what you did for us and for your people.
Well, no, I'm just working for money. Don't worry about it. Other people, you know, when I you know, when all the vet here invite me for like a event, and I say, well, thank you for. I say, no, don't think that way. I'm working because I make more money there.
You did a beautiful thing. Thank you, guys.
Yeah.
Coach Quinn, did you see this picture?
What picture?
Can you see it?
Pick it up a little higher and a little closer.
Oh, who's that?
Bob Brucker. Higher and closer.
Higher.
Okay.
Higher. You're going lower. Other way.
Up,
Up.
Okay, let's close it down.
Yeah.
That's
All
Coach
right.
Quinn. That's you.
That's me?
Pick it up.
Yeah.
Up.
Up. You know, this way.
That way?
Right?
That's me?
And you and another
Oh, I see. Yeah. I'm in a jungle fatigue, right?
you're in the fatigues, right?
Okay, got it. Yeah. Where's
Long
that?
hair pulled back. And then another nurse, I think it is.
Yeah, that's what Kodam, that's the one that Ben married to. She's a midwife and nurse. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Can I get a copy of that?
Okay.
Yeah.
Coach Swin, Swin Tien Nguyen
Yeah.
at yahoo.com.
Yes. Yes.
All small letters.
Yeah. Any more like what do you call the old pictures? Send it to me. Yeah.
Right.
So
Here's,
when the
here's my
communists,
back.
yeah. When the communists took over, I burned all the pictures. So but they still find me and lock me up. So what a sad story.
Here's Gypsy Rose Lee when she visited me Fouquet.
Oh,
That's with me.
okay. Who's she?
Oh, she was an actress, an American actress.
Yeah, I didn't remember that.
He's standing next to, well, that's me standing next to her. Yeah.
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 Wow.
Okay, Betty, 7:07.
All right.
Okay.
It's
So
good to see you.
any future meeting, please keep me posted, okay?
All right.
Leave this in Mark's good hands or John's.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Hi, gentlemen. Unless you'd like to keep this going, I think I've had a fairly long day here. I appreciate everybody coming here. I hope that the remaining camps that we have, there are more people, even more percentage of the people who show up. I think this is one of the better meetings that we've had, and I thought it was very good. And Swin to come here, even belatedly,
Oh, yeah.
lots of the meeting. I will make it a
Here's
point.
our insurance for the trip.
I will make it a point to make a rough video of this, a rough YouTube version of this, and try to get it out tonight or tomorrow, probably tomorrow. And the purpose for that will be to I'll get a copy to you and everybody else from this team, but I'll also send copies to all the other B41 teams to tell them what they better do to get ready for the next meeting.
Oh, that'll be nice. Yeah, I'd like to meet
So-
more of the member because
I will put that out. But look, I want to thank you all for coming here. I hope you will take my advice and go up and sign into the photos.com, specialforcesphotos.com, put up your pictures. I hope if you don't have the Green Beret magazines, you will get them. I'm not sure how many I've got left, but I don't think it can be that many at this point. There's still some mixed up with other shit in my warehouse.
I got a copy of the Green Berets the magazine with the pictures.
These magazines here.
Yeah, I got a copy of that, but yeah, I don't know who sent it. Maybe you did. Did you send it to me?
I didn't send it to you because I haven't met you before this.
Okay. Yeah, I got a copy of that, and
Where you want to go eat? Maybe too late for sunrise.
Yeah.
All right. Well. Okay.
We-
Anybody else have any-
Hey,
Steve?
Yes.
Steve, thank you.
Thanks, Dave.
Thank you.
Thank you, Steve.
Steve. Hey, guys. Hey, hang on a second.
Okay.
Hang on a second. We have a Facebook page. It's called A411 Me Fukte, A-411 Me Fukte. You guys search that out if you can, and we'll try to get everybody on it. Mostly this is, I think it's about 5 of us guys there from the last team on the camp. Check
Dave,
this out.
David, I'm not very good at Facebook. Send me an email and let me post it to the 411 page on my website.
Okay, will do.
All right.
All right, thank you, Steve. Hey, guys, good to see you.
Good to see you all.
Bye, guys.
Same here. Bye.
Bye.
God bless everybody.
Steve?
I bet you
God
are.
bless.
Yeah.
Thanks, Swen.
Bye-bye now. Yes.